Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can everybody hear us on Zoom and here in the boardroom? We're muted.
Yep, I got you.
All right. Captain COVID Kennedy is sequestered at home with that beautiful Dickinson and Wright behind. Thank you, legal counsel, for joining us, Mr. Kennedy. Hope you're faring well at home. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is the heat of July 14th. If it's not too hot for everybody, I mean, this is a lot better than other places you could be, but it is still warm outside. So welcome to 100-degree weather. Happy to be here. This is for the regular board meeting for the month of July for the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Directors. Today, we are going to, I'm going to ask that we be a little flexible today with the agenda. Couple of things we need to address. We've got a lot of business here today. Some very standard items that we probably need to move through, and some stuff that we'll need to talk about. But I am going to move. I'd like to move member comments, board member item J, up following public comment prior to item C today. And then maybe some potential block votes on some of the more mundane business that we have in item I. So if that's what we will be doing today. This is my last meeting as your chairman today. We will have elections for a new chair, vice chair, and secretary and treasurer for our board. So I am going to do the best we can to move through this. I will chair the entire meeting from start to finish as your chair, and the new directors will take over at the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors in August. So with that being said, I'm going to open the meeting, call the meeting to order. And with that, Mr. Sean Carey, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Mr. Carey. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Thank you. Chair Bob Lucy.
Here.
Mayor Hillary Sheevy. Here. Councilwoman Charlene Bybee.
Here.
Mr. Stephen Esquaga.
Here.
Mr. Andy Chapman is absent today. Ms. Shannon Keel. She may be joining us later. Mr. Rick Murdoch.
Here.
Ms. Ann Silver. Here. Ms. Jessica Sferraza. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I do appreciate it. We are on to item B, which is this is public comment, comments from the floor. Comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Public is encouraged to comment on all agenda items on or off the agenda. They may be items that are for action or not action. So if you have, do we have any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have 3. First, City Manager Doug Thornley.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Thornley. Or should I say Manager Thornley? Welcome, Mr. Nice to see you.
You can call me whatever you want.
Hi, Doug.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Doug Thornley. I'm the city manager in Reno. And I am thrilled to be here visiting with you today to talk about item I-1. I'm really excited to see the capital investment that you're putting in all of the tourism facilities here in Reno. They're important to all of us. But I do need to implore you to perhaps take a look at helping out a little bit at the bowling stadium. So the $2 surcharge account that traditionally maintains the bowling stadium and provides for the CapEx that we put into that facility, with COVID and the decrease in tourism that you're all aware of, it hasn't really kept up as much as we'd like with the room tax, which of course is indexing higher than the decreasing room nights because it keeps up with the ADV. And so while we have lots of opportunity, and that's awesome, at the convention center and some of the other facilities, the facilities that are maintained by the $2 surcharge account need just a little bit of help right now. And so, as you're all aware, we're very proud we got the bowlers to come back through 2032. But we do need to make some capital investments in that facility. And we need to make those capital investments now. We need to do it before March of 23 to stay in line with what that agreement obligates us to do. And doing that through the $2 account right now would make it very hard for us to keep pace with that agreement as we move forward. And so as you have your conversation on I-1 and you look at the capital investments that you want to make in the facilities that drive tourism in this region, I'd implore you to think back to when the $2 account propped up the Livestock Event Center back in like 2012, 2013, 2014, and give some consideration to using some of the ending fund balance, some of the stimulus money, some of the room tax revenue that's available to this board to invest at its discretion to help us make those needed improvements in the bowling stadium and keep the bowlers coming back and keep those room nights driving in downtown Reno. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thornley.
Next is Kevin O'Keefe.
Greetings, I'm Kevin O'Keefe, so I run the Reno Tower International Art Show. I just wanted to give you a quick update as to where we are right now and where it's going next year and some thoughts about the convention center. So the Reno Tower International Art Show is a platform for the Reno creative movement, and that is to try and, it's a movement to try and put Reno Tower on the map on a national scale as an arts and cultural center. And so it takes place 8 through 11 at the convention center. The core of it is all of our best artists. So there's 200 artists and 1,500 pieces of original artwork. We have 80 musicians. We have 22 bands. We have a big auction for Eddie House. Everyone is included here. We've added a Burning Man sculpture walk where we're going to bring about 15 major pieces out in from the desert that'll be outside of the convention center across the street, and some of them will be inside. We have sculpture coming in from all over the United States. We have 40 galleries and features. Some of this is $3 million art, some of it is $300 art. But one of the keynotes here is our First Nations Indigenous Peoples Pavilion. We've put together the best group of Native American artists that'll occur here with 200 pieces of original art in a big pavilion. We're partnered with the Cordillera Film Festival. We're going to have film shorts that Steve was on the line here will be providing the big screens for, Oscar shorts, but it's important to know that this first art and design event for the state is going to be all about us. So it's going to be fun and fresh and lively. We're going to have an awards program running at the museum to award of those 200 artists that we have at the show, who the 8 best ones are, and then there'll be a $5,000 award for the one who's best. That really helps also lift the city. It's been a big promotion that's going out to over 300,000, actually millions of people socially, to tell collectors and designers and architects around the United States that this is an arts and cultural center. But looking ahead, we're going to do a much bigger sculpture marketplace at the convention center, a full hall, a much larger First Nations program. There'll be a lot more galleries that'll be here. We're bringing in elements from a big show in New York, and Cordillera is going to move their dates alongside of ours. So this becomes a much bigger thing. We're working with the top producer of trade shows in the world, and former is a good friend of mine that runs it, to bring in additional shows to co-locate next time. And one of the points I just wanted to make here that's really important is that Reno is changing. Everyone knows Reno is changing, and I really feel that there's a changing perception, and the population is changing a lot, and so we have a real future here with the event center where we're able to do and bring in a lot more associations, a lot more events. But it's really important that the advantage we have now is we have an open center. So it's non-union, so it really is, it could be positioned as the most welcoming convention center in the West. So open and flexible, so that everything about bringing a show in is all about the exhibitors. So when the exhibitors think it's easy to do an event, that's what we want them to do. So I'd like to be able to also put forward myself on a complimentary basis to help in any way I can to bring new events to this place. So anyway, I wanted to just let everybody know what's happening. It should be a very big and exciting show.
Thank you, sir.
That sounds like a Reno accent, right?
No, it's very much New England and then later on New York.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
I was on a call the other day. It was tourism and arts, some national call. And
I think we've got a big future here for events, and if I can help, I'd love to do it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next public commenter.
Jessica Schneider.
All right. Ms. Schneider.
Really quickly, I just wanted to let the board know, I asked, Mr. O'Keefe and Jessica Schneider to come, since new events have been so critical, and I want to get the board excited about what we're doing. Since we haven't had a board meeting in a long time, I really thought it was important to be here, and so to share with everybody, so we can really support them.
Hi, my name is Jessica Schneider. I opened Junkie Clothing Exchange May 1st, 2008. I opened that store with that big of space, 17,000 square feet, and I rang up $120. And that moment, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I realized that I could not do the numbers and the volume to sustain that big a space without tourism. So I got into the hotel book ASAP, and I've been at the airport for years. I believe in the airport. I get somebody every day, 7 days a week, all year long. I saw you at the airport. I saw you at the airport. So now, inside my own business, I've created this culture of 70% of my business is tourism. I can't even make that up. No one believes it. I've actually tried to coach some of my small business owner friends about the airport. They get sticker shock because it is expensive, but it works. So I really truly believe in tourism, and now people will come into Junkie, get a hotel room just to come to Junkie. We become a destination. It's bigger than me. It's not even about me anymore. It literally is its own thing. And Midtown is 14 years later, look at it. So I have a great idea, want to go in the bowling stadium. I have a contract. Renee and Steve have done a wonderful job. There's like 2 things I need to change. Been so accommodating, very fair. But I want the public to do a haunted house to go and see the bowling stadium this year. Renee and Steve have worked with me. I'm ready to sign it. It's fantastic. But I want to start a partnership with you. I'm not sure how this works, but I want help with branding. The first year is hard. I wish Steve was here. We all know that it doesn't happen overnight. Hot August Nights didn't happen overnight. This takes time. But this could be so famous. We're like, oh my gosh, that haunted house at the bowling stadium in Reno is amazing. It'll take time, but I really want to have a partnership with you guys. Like I said, I don't know how it works, but we're ready to do it and sign the contract. So I have the best team. I love marketing, branding, all of that. There's 90,000 junkie bags in the world. In the world. Even in Japan, someone showed me a picture that says Reno, Nevada on it. I believe in branding. So with my team, with the Junkies Dark Corner, Holly is an amazing artist, a worker bee, out making walls, went to haunted house certification, knows everything about it. In the 100-degree heat is a worker bee, makes sculpting, makes arms, makes legs. And then the other partner, Dustin, he knows about sound, lighting, timing. He can make a rocking chair go back and forth. This is not going to be cheesy. This is going to be well done, and people are going to come from all over. I really do believe that. With all of my email fans and all of my fans, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ed, because I worked with Ed, and you don't get 25,000 Santas downtown Reno during the Santa pub crawl or zombies without filling up hotel rooms. And Junkie Clothing Exchange has been on the cup for years. So I'm going to give it over to Ed and then Holly. Thank you.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to push this button, see how tech I am? Oh, and this
Oh, look
right
at that.
here, this is just an example. We voted, and 4 out of 5 dentists voted that we're Reno's best haunted house.
Well, hi. I'm Ed Adkins. I run Crawl Reno. We put on the bar crawls in town, like the Reno Santa Crawl. Well, actually, now we put on the Reno Santa Crawl, but we also put on the Zombie Crawl and any other excuse to put on costumes and come downtown. Between the Zombie Crawl and the Santa Crawl, we probably bring about 30,000 people downtown. That's annually, and I've been doing this about 15 years. But I think more than anything, after about a couple years of putting this on, I went from being somebody who just liked to throw parties to somebody who constantly thinks about how to bring people to Reno, Nevada. And I know what it takes to bring people downtown. And I also, in speaking with the bars every day, since COVID, not everybody has come back. A lot of them are still thinking about, like, am I still able to keep this going? And they're thinking about this on a week-to-week basis. We need to bring people, as many people as possible downtown to be able to help these businesses. And I believe Jessica can do this. I've never seen or heard of a thrift store and antique shop that is a tourist destination before. And they are a tourist destination. They've been mentioned in Forbes, Vanity Fair, San Francisco Gates, and San Francisco Chronicle. I mean, basically all around the nation, they've been mentioned in publications in the same way that a massive event would be. And if you know anything about Jessica, you know that if she wants something done, she's going to get it done. But also that it's going to be remarkable. Attention to detail. If you go into her shop, you know that, I mean, she knows how to put things on like this that entertain people and bring people back over and over again. So I believe, just knowing events, knowing what it takes to bring people downtown and how important it is right now, I think that would be a stellar idea. Every dollar that the city helps them out with facilities, things like that, you're going to get so much back. And I think also too, especially the bowling stadium, because from like a man on the street perspective, it kind of is a walled castle. People don't really see a huge benefit of it unless they think in tourism ways. I think it'd be a great way to open it up so people actually go, I see the value in this place personally now, and I get a chance to come in and see it. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I definitely 100% back this idea.
Sir, and can you state your name one more time for the
Oh,
record?
Ed Adkins.
Ed Adkins, Mr. Adkins. Thank you, Mr. Adkins.
Thanks.
All right, next public comment, please.
Hello, board members. My name's Holly, and I'm a dentist who also agreed that Reno has the best haunted house. Just kidding. Not a dentist. I'm an artist, and I believe I am one of the most qualified people to pull off this endeavor with Junkie behind me. A little bit about myself. In the years before I worked for Jessica, I worked at America's #1 haunted house under Roy Woolley and Ben Armstrong. I am so fanatical about the haunt industry and about the Haunted Association that I attend 3 conventions every year that depict what the year is going to look like for the haunt industry, and this year's projected to be $10 billion. Halloween and spooky entertainment is getting huge, and I care about it so professionally that I take classes, learn about the industry, and this year I completed over 8 hours of learning about safety to exactly do what I'm doing this year, which is build a walkthrough attraction for entertainment for the community. And that's my certificate of completion, where I know all about national code and local code to make sure this is a top-notch, professionally done haunted house. So I came to Reno, found Jessica, found Junkie in the community, the art community here, fell in love with it. Jessica saw me, raised me up in Junkie, and saw that I was a workaholic just like her. She's helped me become a part of the community. She's raised me up to start my own businesses. She even last year helped me when I got scouted from HBO to be featured as a Halloween artist on their network. So we got through that, we got back together, and we realized we have both always wanted to do a haunted house. So we are already doing it. This is me and my team at a location in Mogul where I'm building Hollywood flat set design panels to pull off something that you can imagine between the Haunted Mansion and Disney Magic type of haunted house. It's going. Look at us go. I mean, wood is not cheap this year. Every one of the pieces of plywood you're looking at costs without discount close to $30. And I don't know if you saw the temperature the other day, it was 102, but we are so passionate, me and my team, that we've already built out from a home production to 5,000 square feet of what is going to be the most professional haunted house Reno's ever seen. This is a set from just our home production last year, and a little fun video of us working upstairs in the studio, getting our props ready. Our animatronics move just like they do at Disneyland. We are gonna knock your socks off. But because we're going from a home production to a professional production at the National Bowling Stadium, oh my God, we're so excited. It is gonna take a lot more of those lights, a lot more of those walls. And first year, it's just not cheap. But we believe in us, we believe in our team, we believe in this community. We've come together, like Ed said, at the crawls. We did a little marketing at the Bloody Mary crawl. Me and my Halloween team, you can see we thought there needed to be way more blood at the Bloody Mary crawl. So we're already out there on the town. We're already talking about it. We get applications every day for people that want to be a part of this. My team, they bring their kids. I would love if you guys would love to see our studio. Come by. It's incredible. Bring your kids. I'll teach them just like my crew's kids do the professional artistic pull the walls technique, as you can see here. Our neighbors love our production. In fact, our whole community on the west side of Reno talks about it. And I was proud that last year our line wrapped around the block, 3 houses down and around the corner in our neighborhood. And this year I can't wait till I see a line out of the National Bowling Stadium down the sidewalk to Center Street. Our sets are professional. This is an immersive experience that people are going to want to talk about all year long. I don't know if anyone's made you guys see Stranger Things yet, but the want in the young adult community for spooky entertainment this season is going to be wild, and we can bring it to Reno. This is our quality of design, and we are going to up the ante to a large-scale production with this amount of detail that you can see from our picture last year. So what we're asking is just for some help this first year. I really believe that the sooner we can have a relationship or work together and get a little help with marketing, that we can have an event that brings people from all across the country say, I'm going to Reno to see Junkie's Haunted House. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Appreciate it. Any other public comment?
None at this time.
Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak in public comment? All right, seeing none, thank you everybody for participating. We are going to move on to item C. This is the approval of the agenda. I am going to make some adjustments to the agenda this morning, as I have already, or this afternoon, I'm sorry, I'm still caught in my office. I'm going to move item F to following item, prior to item J. I am going to move item I up to following item E and make those adjustments to the agenda this morning to accommodate some of the individuals that are here for the regular business matters, and we will move through that. So those are the adjustments I would make. So item F to prior to item J, and immediately following item E. Looking for approval of the agenda with the amendments.
I will
Just-
make the motion.
I have a motion.
I'm sorry, just a quick, did you do I-1? I'm sorry.
The entire I, board matters, will follow item E, which is executive updates.
Okay, and then just.
Item F will.
I didn't know if you wanted to do the appointment.
Item F will follow
Okay.
it will follow prior to item J. It'll
Okay.
be the last item of the day today. All right, yes.
I also just quickly wanted to ask you.
Yes.
I wanted to just have some comments. I don't know if you prefer I do that in public comment.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do open member comments early. We're going to open it twice today. I'm going to open member, I'm going to item J.
Pertaining to conference of mayors.
Yeah, I'm going to open that prior here in a second, and then, okay? All right, so looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second on the floor? I'll second my motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all members voting. No nays were recorded. All right, we are on to item D, folks. This is the approval of the minutes of the May 19th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Directors for possible action. Are there any, the minutes have been posted in your agenda for today. Are there any amendments or changes to the minutes as posted in your agenda? Seeing none, looking for a motion to accept. I have a motion to accept. I have a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Safraza, motion from Mayor Shivi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Please let the record show that Member Keel is joining us now via Zoom as well, and should join us previously. All right, we are on to item E. This is the executive update of the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority CEO update. So, Mr. Harris, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can get help from our technology people just to kind of go over to the presentation. And this is one of our new employees, Mike, who just joined us. So he's going to help us get all set up and get going. That's right, part of a team of two. If we hit play, I think we'll be good. There we go. All right. So, we're going to start off with a general update. The changes that we took place at the beginning of June allowed us to welcome new employees. And the new employees, we started off with a breakfast over at the convention center, which was phenomenal. We had our current staff that were here. We welcomed about 70 folks. We had board members that were there. We had board member Bybee, board member Silver, and board member Esquaga joined us for the breakfast. And with that, we were able to welcome folks. Is that going to go away? There we go. So he's going to try to get the folks that are online to go away. But we basically had a breakfast welcoming everyone as we went from 42 to about 120 folks. And so we were able to integrate folks. We gave away tickets to the Kevin Hart concert. And we really just talked about where we were going as a new organization and folks to go through that. One of the things that was sent out today through by our communications team and was sent to all board members, all staff, and to the media is something that was really, really special and unusual. And we got to get rid of the folks online so I can finish that presentation.
Your mouse isn't showing up. That's his issue.
Well, I'm going to continue as they try to figure it out. What happened, Smart Meetings Magazine, one of the premier folks that deal with conventions across the country, had a annual report, and part of that was they named the best DMOs in the country. And what you can't see behind our folks that are online that is shielding that is a list of really big destinations that were mentioned. And in those destinations were New York, Orlando, Boston, folks that are very tier one, high-level folks that are really well known. For the very first time ever, the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority were mentioned among the best DMOs in the country. And that is a testament to this entire staff, board, and community that's worked very hard to help elevate what we're doing, and the fact that this organization is getting that recognition by the industry is phenomenal. So, I want to talk generally about the annual goals that we had for this year. We just finished the fiscal year. When it comes to the meeting side of our business, at the start of the year, we had 206,500 room nights that sales was responsible for. At the end of the day, the team delivered on 215,000 plus room nights, or 105% to goal. Phenomenal job by our sales team. When it came to marketing, these are the marketing goals that we set up at the beginning of the year. To plan, 103% of earned media. Website, 130. Website sessions, 125% to plan. Our social community size reached its goal. What's really interesting in this list were the partner referrals. 307% to plan. Now, part of that was not only the handoffs to our hotels and our hotel partners, but because the events kicked back in this year, we had a tremendous number of referrals for the events that take place in this community, and that really skewed the results to 307% to plan. If you look in your packets, within the packets themselves, this is the monthly snapshot that our marketing team produces, and within that, you can look at the May monthly performance. It indicated above 100% on every single item with the exception of the room nights. We were 97% to plan on occupancy, down 2% year over year. But when it came to the revenue year to date, we are over-indexing by a good margin to the actual plan that we have. So that's an update that you have in your books and that we cover now. One of the other things that's been going on is that our marketing team spent 2 days bringing together our agencies, which included Noble, BVK, who else was there, Christina? and Decker Royal. And 2 days spent really aligning all the different agencies, thanks to the folks at the Row where we had the meetings, and brought nearly 20 people into a room for 2 days and talked about strategy and aligning what we want to be doing ahead in the next year and 2 years. One of the things that you'll see behind the mayor against the wall is awards. And we don't usually bring the awards in here, but wanted to make sure that everyone saw and recognized the amazing job that this team has done over the year. It is a record-setting year in terms of being recognized for the different programs that we've had. We just won 4 additional awards at the ACE Gala that took place, and it's the most awards and recognition that this team has received within a single year. One of the other things that's taken place recently is accreditation. So when I first started here, we hadn't been accredited for a few years. And the process is we had to submit, the entire team, Courtney did a lot of the heavy lifting that got us there, but we had more than 100 different items that we were being evaluated on from a business practice and what we were doing in a standard that Destinations International has executives that volunteer their time to be able to set those standards. What it means is, no matter what we're doing in our process, we wanted to make sure that a third body outside evaluated and said that we were aligning to the best practices in the business. We were awarded the accreditation at the end of June. This will be recognized next week at the DI National Convention in Toronto, and Ben McDonald will be representing us when the organization is recognized among the best and the brightest around the world. What you see in front of you is the Shriners Convention. The Shriners had their annual 2022 convention in Minneapolis, which is where I spent the July 4th holiday speaking, because our team has closed on bringing that Shriners Convention here to Reno in 2024. So there were several different events, including a reception that had 300 folks, and this the main convention itself that had about 4,000, and we were able to highlight, promote, and talk about Reno for the next 2 years when they're coming here. They like to gamble, they like to drink, they like to have a good time, and certainly we look forward to welcoming them here in 2024. The Conference of Mayors, and hopefully, Mayor, I'm not going to steal your thunder when I go through this, but wanted to at least come back and give some feedback on a great event that was held here at the end of June. This is the Ranchera event that was held outside, and just to report back to the board kind of where we stand from the monies that were allocated and the collections that were made. Currently, the net cost of the event after the sponsorships have been collected is $415,000 net. There are still about 200 and some odd $1,000 in collections that we hope to have from the sponsorships that were done. And if and when we're able to collect those sponsorships, the net cost would be $187,000. So that's where we're at as a reporting. We hope to have that in the next couple weeks as we go through the collections for that. Moving through, this is just other great stuff that took place at the bowling center, and I will say it was the first event that Aramark took over and hosted, and I believe they over-delivered when it came to the food and the presentation of the product. Certainly I'll defer to the mayor to let her talk additionally, but wanted to make sure we reported some of the things that took place. We talked also about USBC, the bowling. A 3-year contract extension was recently announced. They will be here till 2032, and several events that will take place as part of that extension of that contract. Lastly, this is an agenda item that is up for consideration. One of the things that the board did was to empower me to be able to negotiate with Miss USA. We were able to close for 2022, so based upon the parameters that the board delivered to me, we did that. The item on the agenda today is 2 additional years, 2023 and 2024, which are under the same terms of the agreement that the board will have the opportunity to vote on and discuss. All in all, we've got that 3-year contract in place if the board approves, and we hope to have that done today as well. Lastly, we're only 2 weeks past the close of the fiscal year, and the team worked super hard to put together kind of the highlights. We did this last July, but this is the best way for us to talk about the achievements the organization has had over the last 12 months, and I'd like to show you this highlights.
meetings industry continues to rebound, meeting professionals are experiencing an ever-increasing number of challenges.
Our convention hotels continue to offer high-quality experiences at some of the most competitive rates in the country. Plus, their stringent health and safety policies remain in place.
That's a recap of everything that happened during the year, and based upon a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of things that had to get done from ASM 3-year strategic plan, a lot of the challenges that we had. I'd actually like the staff just to stand up and get recognized. Everybody in this room that belongs to the RSCVA, please stand up for all the work that you've done. Great job with that. I'll turn it back over to the chair and ask for any questions that I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. What a wonderful year in review. I mean, tremendous work and some great outcomes. Are there any questions from the board members for Mr. Harris in regards to his executive update today? All right, seeing none. I think you covered it all, Mr. Harris. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually use it all the time. First of all, it'll be on the entryway when people come into the building. So anybody that comes into our building will see that. We use it when we go to speak with things like the chamber, when we go out in the community. It's posted on our social to really talk about all the great things that were done so that we continue to elevate what we're doing in the destination.
Mr. Harris, I do have one question for you. Sorry. Mr. Harris, I did have one question for you. You said we, in the video, and I caught it just briefly, I didn't see the last name, but we hosted Fallon and then Visit Carson Valley. And we hosted a third. What was the third one we did?
South Lake.
Oh, we hosted South Lake. Great.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, we actually, Mr. Chair, we actually have 9 that we reached out to. Some folks had to reschedule.
Okay.
And that is ongoing. We will continue to do that throughout the year. But we had everyone scheduled every month, and we will continue to do that until we cycle through and most likely continue it. Because what we wind up doing is we not only get the destinations that present and allows us to work better, but we also have people in the community that attend that. So as we look to try to leverage Northern Nevada for all the different types of marketing that we do.
Great. So it's more of a creating a cohesive understanding and marketing plan and visitor presentation with. Oh, great. That's fantastic. That was a marvelous thing, and it was quick, so I wanted to get a little bit more detail on that. It was fantastic. I'm going to open up item J. I'd like to make some comments right out the gate. Item J, this is board member comments, and this is not necessarily regarding future items, but I'd like to open up item J for some board member comments because I'd like to set the tone today for today's meeting and really talk. And I think this is a perfect segue from Mr. Harris's update on the year in review. We have a lot of business to cover today, and we're going to try to move through that very quickly. But we should be very proud as individuals, not only as electeds, but appointeds and business owners and employees and just residents to live in such a great state. I had a unique experience, as you can see from my wonderful tan. I got to travel. I spent some time after the primary election traveling. I went to Sonoma for the Nevada State Bar Association conference to meet with some of the attorneys and spent some time in Sonoma. I spent with my family to Hilton Head, Savannah. I've been in Omaha recently, Nebraska, and kind of all over the United States. And this is just in the last month and a half. But over my 7 years on this board, I have taken the time to travel to Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, Dallas, Phoenix, Houston with the team, Florida with the team, Washington, D.C., to really push Reno Tahoe as an organization. And the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority does so much. And it is really more than just a tour or convention visitors bureau. We are what I would believe as a true economic development community and establishment for not only Washoe County, Reno Sparks in our community, but for Northern Nevada as a whole. We have 17 wonderful counties here in the state of Nevada, 2 of those being the largest urban counties, Clark and Washoe, and then 15 very small rural counties that rely heavily on us 2 counties. And Washoe County pulls a lot of weight for a lot of the Northern Nevada. And prior to my trip to Savannah, Georgia, and Hilton Head, South Carolina, I I currently am the president of Nevada Association of Counties, and we do a rural meeting once a year. And I went and traveled to Ely and spent time in White Pine County. And part of the presentation from their events, Kyle Horvath, phenomenal guy, Northern Nevadan, come from Carson City, moved to Ely to help them with their destination, gave a presentation on what they are doing in White Pine County. And wonderful presentation, showed us all the great things that can happen in White Pine County, and they really are reestablishing what most people would think about Ely. Ely, we'd think it's a sleepy mining town that nobody would go to. It's 5 hours from Reno. It's on the Utah border. It's difficult to get to. But the closest city to our one of our only national parks here in the state of Nevada, the Great Basin National Park, they have introduced bowling. They have art now. They have an art tour in downtown Ely. They point out all of the native heritage of the northern part of the state throughout White Pine County. They have a historic train. They have ghost tours. They have mountain biking where you can race the train. So they have events throughout the year, and they really focus. But the one thing they told me is they said the challenge is we have all these opportunities to be a great destination for tourism and all these different things, but we find ourselves challenged with infrastructure, challenged with housing, challenged with internet, challenged with supply chain issues, and they have jobs, but no people to fill those jobs and no houses for those people to live in. So what I would like for you as an outgoing chair of this organization, and lovingly, this is my favorite board that I've served on for the last 7 years, is that carries on, that we don't just think of ourselves as a tourism and convention visitors authority, that we think of ourselves as economic developers, that we think of ourselves as constant ambassadors for our region, not just Washoe County, but for the entire northern Nevada state, and really reestablishing who we are. You know, we are Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority, and I think we've spent a lot of our years, and I hope the gamers are going to get mad at me, but that's okay. We spent a lot of our time focusing on putting conventions in gaming properties, where we should be focusing on who we are as an identity. Who is Reno Tahoe? You know, we say Reno Tahoe here, and most of our marketing shows Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe doesn't have the heads and the beds that we do. Reno is the one that represents a majority of that tax base. Sparks represents a majority of that tax base. And so when we do that, we need to identify what those things are and truly start reevaluating. And we've seen 2 wonderful presentations through public comment this morning in regards to the Dark Corner, Junkie Dark Corner, and the art show. These are wonderful, and we have so many special events that we should be focusing on to create more organic tourism to our community, not relying so heavily on Tahoe for the city that you fly into so you can go to Tahoe. But we should be our independent selves so that Sparks stands out, Reno stands out. We work with our communities like Fallon and Carson and Virginia City to really tie into that heritage, tie into what people want to do, tie into why we are what we are as a tourist destination. That's what tourism is. Quality of life and creating a community. Businesses come because they can make sure that their companies have the ability to provide a quality of life for their employees. Conventions are not that. Conventions, people fly in, they check in, they do their business, and then they leave. But they're going to go back to wherever their business is located and stay. They're more than not likely to move. However, individuals that would choose to come here and visit here and see our community and see how wonderful we are may have the opportunity to adjust and come and create new businesses and new enterprises here within the state. And so I want to make sure that this board, ongoing, continues to see that as a focus, that we're not just something that's defined within a box, that we can be so much more through special events, through community involvement, through just organic tourism, and really finding our identity as Northern Nevadans, grabbing onto our heritage. And so I'd like to set the tone about the meeting today based around those comments and based around that understanding, because I think and I believe that this organization has not only the capability, but the intelligence, It has the executive staff. It has the leadership from the community, the involvement from the community to really make those substantive changes and really entice those individuals to come to our community just outside of a convention and trying to fill a big box or trying to fill an event center or trying to fill a livestock arena which most of those things sit dark. We need to do a better job as a board. We need to rely on our strategic plan and our mission, but we have to evolve and we have to bring that ingenuity behind what we're trying to do here and not just fall within the bookmarks of what we think we are. Because every CVB, if you go anywhere else, they fight for tourism and we fight for conventions. We should be fighting for both. So those are my comments. I thank you for all your time and giving me the opportunity to set the tone in the meeting today. But if anybody else would like to share some comments before we move into our general business, I'll open the floor. Madam Mayor, sorry.
Well, no, I don't want that. I don't want a chair. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to everyone that came in public comment. It really means a lot. This is something that Bob and I have been passionate about for a long time, is building new events, especially the startup new events. We think that that is really important. We hope the board gets behind that, especially now more than ever. I'm so delighted to see that there's an opportunity to bring something completely different other than bowling to the bowling stadium, because that's been such a big gripe. And to show that it's multi-purpose would be absolutely phenomenal. But that's not going to happen unless this board gives 100% of their support. And you guys know startups are really, really tough. And so, you know, it's going to take all of us together in building those partnerships. So I want to be very careful about, and you guys might feel differently about this, but I do know what it takes to do a startup, and they're tough, and they're hard, and they're a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I would much rather have events than empty event spaces. And so whatever that takes to get those activated, we need to be doing it. We need to be in partnership with the people that are investing in our own community. But it's going to be great. It'll be the first time ever, I think I'm right, that if possibly you end up going into the bowling stadium, that the community will actually walk through those doors. Is that correct? Trent's saying yes. Can you believe that we have had such I mean, that space is incredible. And it showed the night that we hosted what was it, the Disco Bowl? Studio 54. It was phenomenal, and it was really a great space. We were all sort of shocked about how great it was, and I just think that it's really been tragic that its own community has not had the ability to go in there. I mean, so if you're going to start out with any statement, this is the way to go. It supports our local community, it supports our downtown, and it'll be the first time ever that your actual locals can walk through that door, and they should. You know, so anyway, so thank you. Arts, huge economic driver, huge for the region. Remember, the most economic impact in Reno is Burning Man. One of the biggest, I think it's $70 million of economic impact. It's our busiest time at the airport. Art is a massive driver. So I want to say thank you so much, because you are a phenomenal curator. I think Reno is very lucky to have you, Kevin. And I just believe that this board, we should all be getting behind everyone that comes in here and says, I want to do a new event and make Reno better. And you guys are all, you know, rooting for Reno. And I keep saying we got to do that. So that's really important. So I'm excited to support you guys on the city side in any capacity. You know, obviously we're always trying to find the funding and those things like that. But I really think RSCVA, being the major tourism and events driver, needs to, you know, really make you guys shine, and they will. And so transitioning to that, I want to just say, unbelievable job with the United States Conference of Mayors. Mike Larraguetta and Christina Ernie, I don't think you guys slept one wink, because you guys were up like me from sun up to sundown. I want to say thank you to the airport. They were absolutely phenomenal. Darren, I don't know if you guys know this, he was tremendous. The amount of feedback that I got when people came through those doors was outstanding. And that's one advantage we have of being a smaller town, that we can kind of create that feel. I mean, if I go into Minneapolis Airport or Dallas, you don't feel like that at all. Like Reno just shines on its own. So I want everyone to know the amount of feedback I got on that airport was tremendous, tremendous. I got tremendous feedback from the pepper mill. So Stephen, I'm sorry you're not here today, but I wanted you to know that. Everyone was really, really happy. I mean, in so many ways, it was important for me to host this because I think that Reno is so special, and I wanted to show, because so many mayors said, I haven't been to Reno in so many years, and we were just blown away. We had the NEA chair. She is the chair. They're appointed by the White House for the arts. She was here taking a tour. That was phenomenal. They were just blown away by the amount of art and the level of art, which was very cool. We had the Vice President of the United States of America talking about Reno, but they were really just blown away. And so I just hope that this board has an idea how proud you guys should be of the job that they did. But Christina and Mike and Ben, you guys were phenomenal, off the hook. I could not have done it without you. And also Doug, your help with the city, it was really, really tremendous. And there were so many times I wanted to get up there and cry because, you know, you get up there and say, I just want to do a good job. And you really did. I could not have done it without you. So I want the board to be so proud because I think it was truly a great event. And it really highlighted our destination and really the people that make it so successful. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank you guys. And there's nothing I could ever do to repay you enough. I know that you probably want, you know, free speeding passes throughout the city, but if I would, I could. But I cannot thank you enough. And I can't thank the board enough for supporting the event. I think that was, you know, really important to showcase that we can host those kinds of events and that we can put different kinds of events in the bowling stadium. So, Charles, you just need to know you have a phenomenal team, phenomenal. So, thank you very much.
All right, under item J, any other board member comments for the public comment this morning or any other members of the public that it would like to be shared? All right, I'm going to close item. All right,
Chairman Lucy,
yes.
Just
Membership.
1 second, I just wanted to say thank you to the chair and our electeds on here, because the fact that these folks are here under public comment and wanting to do these events, I think that speaks volumes to the RSCVA getting out there in the community and having local business folks bring forward. I mean, these organic, I mean, Santa Crawl, all of those things, they start off small. I got to be honest, when it first came to council, I was like, okay, what is this? And they grew into huge events that really, again, to special events and tourism. So I just want to compliment you guys on, I mean, that's why they're here. That outreach with doing things organically, I think it's cool.
Mr. Squaga. Did we lose Steve? Steven? He was there. There he is. There he is. We got him back.
I'm so sorry. This is not the ideal way to be attending the meeting, so I apologize. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. No, I wanted to jump in, and I'd be remiss in not. I think we need to recognize really Mayor Sheevy on, you know, we'll often say swing for the fences, but to bring Conference of Mayors in and land it. I know we talk about the whole, you know, bring your convention home, and you know, you backed it up by, you know, showing it firsthand that you were able to land a big one for the area and very high profile. And I just want to thank those efforts and really, you know, all of us that wear that hat on trying to bring business and expose people, let them experience the whole Reno Tahoe. You know, the airport also, we had a huge airline conference right on the heels of Conference of Mayors with Jumpstart. So I just wanted to put a shout out there. And I don't disagree with your comments, Bob. But I think there's a room for a lot. I think there's the organic approach. I still really, you know, with these big conventions that we talk about fighting over, they are a great exposure though for people making return visits back. I can't tell you how many convention and group business you know, groups we have come into the area that will say, I never knew, I'm bringing my husband back next time, or I'm bringing my wife. So it's a great marketing tool. But again, watching that video, Charles, of the last year, really puts a bow around how much you and your staff and the board, everybody has been working on. And then reading, I know we're going to be going over the annual plan, looking forward. I get almost hyperplexy of all the things that you have lined out to achieve. But I think what we're showing is, we had a great year behind us. And I think we're looking at a great runway going into 22-23 with the plan that you have in place. And I'm looking forward to, really seeing what we can hit off that list. It's defined. And those are just my parting comments, and look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Member Esquaga. All right, seeing no more, I'm sorry, Mr. Murdoch.
Come on, I'm full of hot air.
No. Go ahead, sir.
Interestingly enough, I love it that tourism comes together and conventions and all this. We realize what Kevin Hart does for the community. We realize that Seinfeld's coming, but I want to thank Charles and his team for making it easy to bring Seinfeld to Reno, Nevada in November. The point is, Seinfeld, whether it's locals attending, out-of-town people drive because they literally drive to Reno, go walk across the street, see a show, or go to Tahoe, see a show, or go out to the convention center, or go to Sparks to see shows because Sparks has a great lineup. Point is, it shows how RSCVA tourism, it's just not all about a convention, but it's about a convention, but it's about a show in our convention centers. It's about bowling. It's about the airport. Really it's about Santa and the pub crawl. My God, you know how many room nights have evolved out of that now? People come to town. I can tell you because I used to track the room nights, and I know the row has them, but it's unbelievable who you get for the Santa crawl, and then now the zombie crawl. We used to sit by the fountain in the El Dorado and watch the zombies, and then you'd watch the Santas. A lot of Santas not wearing a lot of Santa clothes, but a lot of people shouldn't be, Well, I was watching just because it's the most interesting thing you've ever seen, all these Santa outfits, but the zombies too. But the point is, it's all relative to the bottom line of a room night and tax for the community. And it drives air service. It's amazing that we all are doing this. And Bob, great that you tied a thread through all this. And you guys, you've done a fantastic job. Charles, your team's is so easy to work with. Thank you for transitioning the buildings. I mean, it's been amazing. In fact, yesterday, the entertainment director called me about how great it is working with the team downtown. And we can't wait. We think, can you imagine haunted house, haunted bowling, haunted Christmas shows I mean, there's so many things. Don't get me going. Don't get me going. Christmas shows, the sky's the limit for us. Yeah. Burner Bowl. I want to do, ice someday downtown. I mean, we have the world. If we want to put the resources and the time, beat everybody to the punch, Reno is unique. But here's what happens in Reno. When you go up against the Vegases, the San Diegos, the Seattles, you're going up against probably a little better air service than a lot of these destinations. So what we have to do is drive. The RSCVA has been our catalyst to drive business, or actually, and I'm not going to use the word lightly, buy business or help fund business or give people startups, just like your startup. But it's so important we realize that Reno has to work a lot harder than Vegas and a lot harder than San Diego and a lot harder than Denver. We have to work triple hard to get events and things to come here. But when they do come, they come in droves and they love it here. So RSCVA, keep it up. Thank you, board.
Councilwoman Bybee.
Just to put one final, maybe another ribbon around it at the end, agreeing with what everyone has said. But I think really at the end of the day, it also comes back to our community. And I think our locals, when you think, oh, that's tourism, oh, it's downtown, I'm not going downtown, I don't gamble, whatever. Really, what we're doing benefits our community and helping our community to understand that the economic driver that comes from tourism, that comes from people coming here, that come from all the special events, whether they're a combination of local and outside interests, the events themselves benefit our community, but the economic benefit that at the end of the day, what we're paying in tax dollars, what things are funded through that economic impact, really touches everybody in our community. And I think we probably need to do a better job of messaging that and connecting to our locals who don't know what RSCVA is and don't understand and think that tourism is for just tourists, that it doesn't apply to them, and it does. And I think our whole team here, our community partners, our local governments, along with businesses all together. The success that we have made and the potential we have is just extraordinary.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilwoman Bybee. All right, seeing no, today everybody could be anything, all right, at this point. All right, we're going to close item J and bring it back to item I. This is we're going to move in some the board matters of the day. So let's go to I1. This is review, discussion, and possible action, possible approval of the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority revised capital improvement plan, grant-funded projects for fiscal year 2022 and 2023. And I want to emphasize grant-funded projects, as we have previously already in our budget that we approved back in May, had a capital improvement plan in it. This is the grant funding outside of that. So I will turn this over to Trent, Mr. LaFerrier, for our a overview of what we are being asked to today to approve with that grant funding. So, Mr. LaFerrier.
Thank you. That's some hard speeches to follow. So what we're looking at is we've got a grant funding in a total of $2.84 million. And we're tried to go through all of our properties to divide this up. So what we're looking at is, for the convention center, is new roofing systems. And we've got some areas of deteriorated roof over the registration lobby and A meeting rooms. And we're looking at $1 million to go to that project. The air walls at the convention center, which divide out the halls for different uses, we've got $300,000 earmarked for that. Exhibit hall painting, the halls in the convention center have not been touched in 22 years, paint-wise, and they're looking kind of dingy. Lighting upgrades is a continuation of what we've been doing through all the properties on getting rid of the fluorescent and the metal halide lighting and going to LED. We've got a couple of vehicles that are long past their useful stage. They're 20-plus years old, so we want to replace those. Over at Livestock Event Center, we're doing some electrical upgrades that we'd like to put into this. It is for a new transformer that will be able to power all of our electrical needs in the main arena. Down at the bowling stadium, we would like to take and attack those light bands that are on the exterior of the building that are problematic at best, and remove those. We have earmarked the large screen projector that is in the center of the lanes that is used for any of the bowling. So we want to attack that. And at the Reno Event Center, we're looking at the same idea with the LED lighting in the main arena and get rid of the metal halide lighting and the quartz lighting and change that to dimmable LED lighting. And then we have a little bit of capital reserve left over for any other items.
Great. Thank you, Mr. LaFerrier. Are there any questions for Mr. LaFerrier on the capital improvement plan based upon the grant-funded projects that is to the tune of $2.848370 in a dollar amount? Are there any questions? Member Safraza.
Yeah, I actually have several questions on this, and just want to thank the board. For last meeting, we continued this item specifically for the grant funding. And I wasn't on the board at the time, but we did have, I think during the pandemic, we did the event center operated as the, I think, homeless operations for a time. And I don't know, like, if there was funding put into that because there was a CARES allocation specifically to that. So if there was money set aside for the maintenance of the facility during that time, I know, I guess from my standpoint, we're going out marketing these facilities. I think our CEO is bringing in bowling. We approved that to finally start marketing that facility, whether it's the convention center, whether it's the Reno Event Center bowling. but I have a hard time with the allocation of taking care of, if we don't have facilities that have repairs that are needed, and distributed through some equal distribution, I'm having a challenge with that, and that's why I wanted this pulled. I mean, whether it's bowling, I think bowling, we heard last meeting from Mr. Larragetta that economic impact. It's the largest convention that we have that fills room nights, and I think it's prudent. I'm not advocating to take funding away from anything, but I think that scoreboard is absolutely critical that we get the scoreboard in here. So I guess that I'm asking the board if that could be added along with these additional improvements. I don't think that I think all these are needed, but I think that bowling contract, I mean, there's certain things that need to be done. That $2 surcharge, quite frankly, I was around, and we've had several conversions since that $2 surcharge was implemented. Harrah's being one of them, and it's not on ADR. That's part of the problem. So that $2 surcharge is dwindling, and if you get more conversions, it may not even exist. So I think it's just a long-term discussion for the board on our facilities. They all need to be taken care of and funded, but I think not doing the scoreboard would be irresponsible considering that we have the biggest convention coming in with bowling, and we're trying to market that facility to be full, as we heard from our other, from you, Mr. Chairman, too, of not having these facilities sitting there vacant. And I just think that it's needed, and thank you to the board for continuing this item for today. I don't want to take away from anything. I know we allocated, for example, $1 million to the Conference of Mayors. I know we have some ending fund balance, but this is also grant funding, and I think it's prudent to put some additional funds for these improvements. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Safraza. Any other further comments or questions? Madam Mayor.
Yeah, quickly. I thought that was included in there. Why wasn't it? What's the scoreboard?
Yeah, and the scoreboard, let me, if I can give some perspective,
Yeah.
that might help. So in the CapEx plan that was approved by the board, that was $3 million going into this year. The 2.8 that was suggested, that gets us to $5.8 million. And for the first time, there are all 4 facilities that are included in the funding because it's a grant. In the regular CapEx, it's not. And so what we had to do, and what Trent, Jose, and the team went through, is to prioritize what was most critical for us to be able to do. And we did include $325,000 for the bowling within that. The 1.2 fell out of that, not because we don't want to do it, but because we had limited funds. And if, in your board packets, if you look at page 2, there's an additional $4 million that requires funding that we can't get to at this point. I did have some talks with the city manager and trying to figure out how do we best solve the problem. The challenge that we have, and either Jessica, you or the mayor suggested it, if we delay in approving anything that's on here now, we put ourselves at risk of not delivering on critical things, specifically for bowling, that needs to take place by early next year. And so that's my concern, and I want to make sure the board understands that.
I just wanted to know how we got here, and not to mention we did get, am I right, Courtney, on the federal dollars? Do we have those, the grants?
Correct.
We do. So then I would think that we would use part of that money, correct?
That, well, this is those dollars. Okay. So the 2.8 is, if the board wants to realign or to reprioritize, that's the discussion that we have here. But long term, I think I would encourage the board to look at what does that $2 surcharge look, who participates. I would encourage that the board consider passing this as was presented, and that the requests in terms of funding for the other facilities, that we look to make a priority when we augment the budget, if and when we get that, when we meet quarterly to go through that. So that we're not ignoring that, but we're just going to tackle that when we augment the budget.
But we also wouldn't have had that grant money, so actually we're really in a good place. With
Hey, Mayor,
can you speak into your microphone so that
I just said that we wouldn't have had that grant money, so we're actually in a really good place to be able to include the scoreboard. I just thought for some reason that it was in there, so And I would say absolutely, we've got to approve all of this and get going. That's for sure. But I am a little bit concerned.
Mr. Chair, about that scoreboard, it's needed for next year. So I don't know if there could be a match with RSCVA and the $2 surcharge. I've looked to the city manager on what that pot is, but I think that's the only challenge with the augmentation. That's why I pulled it. I mean, again, we've committed. All parties have committed to bringing the bowlers here, and so if it wasn't a time-sensitive issue, I can understand where that is. But I think in this situation, like we've got to move on it. So that's why I'm bringing it up today.
Thank you, Mr. Frezza. Mr. LaFerre, I have a quick couple questions for you. I know we've been working on and just give me a second here. I'm going to work my way back around. We've been working on the roofing system at the convention center now for at least 4 years. And I know that we have, in the capital projects that we approved, we spent $668,000 on roofing for halls 4 and 5. And that's not approved. That's carry for those. That's the no. Those are the carry forward from, this is from the budget that was approved in May. So am I wrong or right?
No, you're right, and that's going to be one of the next items on here, is just to get approval to go through with the project.
Right. Okay. But we're going to do halls 4 and 5, correct?
Correct.
And we've done halls 1 and 2 in the years previous?
Yes.
Okay. So those have been completed. So then this last $1 million that's in the grant for the roofing systems over the registration and A meeting rooms would be the last of the roofing systems that we need to address.
We still have the ballroom.
Oh, we do have the ballroom.
In that,
okay, right.
And unfortunately, because of the size,
that doesn't fall under. Oh, because that's meeting rooms. There's the
yes,
yeah. Okay.
Different area.
Yep.
And as we move on, the roofs that we did in the past will start to deteriorate, and we continue
Understood.
that circle again.
So it's we get about 20 years out of our roofs. We should get about 10 to 20 years out of our roofs. We should get 20 years, but they're very large, and so they deteriorate faster. I understand that. And we've done those. We have a good 10 to, we have to do patching periodically to maintain those roofs.
Correct.
I guess my question is, what would be the cost of a new scoreboard? What is the cost of the scoreboard at the bowling stadium? Do you have those numbers by chance?
The closest we had, and these figures are taken from about 2014, 13, is roughly $800,000 to $850,000.
So roughly about $1 million. Let's just let's throw $1 million out there just in regards to what we might see due to inflation and time after 2014 bid. A delay of a year of the lobby and A meeting rooms to do those alongside of the ballroom at the same time, which is all one, from my understanding, I'm pretty sure is all one elevation. Is it two? But it's broken, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be under the same, because we've always used D&D to do those roofing. They've always been the contractor for the majority of those
D&D
repair.
and Kodiak.
Yeah, a majority has been D&D though, at least as long as I've been here, as long as we've done D&D. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. If we delayed that, is that an issue? Can we delay 12 months to do that as a bulk in the next year's capital funding projects? Is that a potential?
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Okay, there is potential there.
Yes.
Okay. So that would allow for $1 million in the grant funding to be allocated potentially to the bowling stadium for the signage that would be mandatory for the next bowling congress. Then we could come back in the next fiscal year and allocate and appropriate the monies for the ballroom, halls A, and the entrance at the same time, correct?
And the only thing I would say there, just so everybody's aware of it, if we do have issues come up where we have leaks that rear their ugly head, so to speak, we have to have some funding to be able to patch until we can get to the replacement.
Correct, and we do have the $153,000 in reserve.
Absolutely.
And then we don't, and we do have our rainy day fund that's currently sitting at 10%, correct? Or almost 12, isn't that right, Courtney?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we do have those abilities as a board. If those problems or those situations do arise for emergency repairs, we have that availability in the funding.
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Murdoch.
Spoke with the bowlers this week, and they are coming in 2023. They're at 35,000 bowlers right now coming to Reno Airlines. So my point is that we better fix it, only because that's 35,000 bowlers. They're still open, so you're going to get probably 40 to 45,000 bowlers plus guests. I'm anticipating 60,000 because they always bring a team of 5 will bring a couple guests, wives. So you've got a ton of people coming through that stadium. And if you look, the bowling stadium is probably, thinking out loud, 70% of room nights. And we had a major convention cancel. We had the men cancel, remember, because of COVID, or it would probably be a lot higher ratio. They're doing both about the same amount of room nights. But again, rising tide floats all boats. We've got to look at things equally and drive room nights. This fills everybody. Everybody will get a higher room rate because of this convention coming, but whether it's $1 million or you say it can be done for 800, who knows anymore with prices falling. It's probably a necessity, and maybe we can move some funding around. But again, for instance, when you look at us trying to help out, I'm just saying that we do a lot of different things in the community. It costs us $500,000 for Kevin Hart. I'm just saying, we did it. There's a reason you do it. It drives everybody's votes, floats them all in the community. So anyway, I want to make that point that this is important. And I'm sure we've got money. Courtney, you're creative. We can find ways to do a lot of things and make sure we don't short sheet anybody on any of these facilities. But to me, that we've got to take care of our facilities. That's one thing we have an edge on, and that bowling stadium is important to us.
Councilwoman Bobby. Thank you, Mr. Murdoch.
I just have a question. So the city of Reno, and I don't know if I need Mr. Thornley to answer this for me, because the bowling center is owned by the city, and you've got the $2 charge that I get what you're talking about. I think longer conversations with a more sustainable solution of what you're facing right now makes total sense. But on the, say for the scoreboard right now, in your capital improvement budget, what do you have available and what were your plans, knowing we went after the bowlers? And do you have some of that or all of it, or what capital improvements do you need besides scoreboard? We're already doing projector and the exterior lights, so kind of how maybe we can work with the city of Reno for what you already anticipate and what we might be able to look at this grant funding to augment, so that together, we've got to get them done before the bowlers get here, no question.
Thank you very much for the question, Member Bybee.
Doug, can you turn your mic on so we can hear you?
I actually don't know if I can. I don't know if that exists within my skill set.
Evidently, it's not in my skill set today either, so you're not the only one, buddy.
I'm sorry. So, of course, I'll do my best to walk you through it. The $2 account, as it sits right now, has about $1.8 million in it. We've already committed $700,000 to painting the exterior, which is a carry forward from the last iteration of the bowling contract. And of course, the lights that are part of this are part of that exterior refresh. Off the top of my head, I don't know that I'm going to be able to go through all of the lined out items in the CapEx that are included in the bowling contract. But at a general level, it is a building just like the convention center or any other building. And so it needs regular maintenance, and it needs things like roofs and HVAC and things of that sort. The things that are specific to the bowlers, the scoreboard, the projector is part of that. At the end of this agreement, we're probably going to have to redo the lanes, and that's going to cost $1.5 million to $2 million. There are 3 or 4 significant high-level improvements along the way. Suffice it to say, the bowling contract requires about $1.5 to $2 million worth of CapEx, every single year there at the bowling stadium for the duration of the bowling agreement. And it has been that way sort of since its inception. Since the inception of the $2 charge, we've taken in $18 million in that charge, 14.5 of which has gone back into the bowling stadium, 700,000 of which has gone into the Livestock Event Center, and the balance has gone to the Event Center.
Maybe my memory is rusty. It's been a decade or so. Just a question for the manager. If I recall correctly, it's capped on the $2 surcharge. What can go to the bowling facility? I think it's only up to 70% of that account.
So statutorily, the $2 surcharge all needs to be dispersed for tourism or for maintenance of publicly owned tourism-related facilities. The bowling agreement itself obligates 70% of the $2 charge to go back into the National Bowling Stadium.
Mayor Sheevy.
Well, I mean, this is just one of the reasons why we've really needed to activate this space so desperately and have that downtown committee. I know, you know, we're getting there, but like it's just got to be. And you know, and how much room nights it produces. It's our largest event. So it's just, I really hope this board supports the stadium that brings in a lot of room nights. So we all have to do it together. So I just want to reiterate that.
Madam Mayor, if I might, just for some color on the bowling stadium versus the convention center. The bowling stadium since 2010 has done about 70% of the room nights that are attributable to the convention center. So if you're doing an apples to apples comparison, it's on its single use there as a bowling stadium, it's doing 7 out of 10 nights as compared to the conventions that come in to the convention center. So it's pulling its weight as it relates to room tax and everything else. And what we're asking for in this instance is because of the impacts of COVID, because of the slowdown in tourism, the $2 account was hit particularly hard. And it lacks the ability to recover because it's a straight charge versus the 13.5% that goes on the ADV of a typical room night, right? So where the tax that comes to the RSCVA gets distributed to the many entities effectively indexes with the value of the room night, the $2 account doesn't do that.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
when
Mr.
there's a moment.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Esquaga.
Yeah, and I say this, I'm going to kind of take the devil's advocate here. I'm taking the opposite approach, and it's not so much questioning the value of the scoreboard or the bowlers itself. I think where my concern is that we have a running list that we've worked on over, I don't know, since the last 3 or 4 months. We've added, actually, I think it was Mr. Murdoch that brought up, you know, basically pointing out that the bowling stadium was left out greatly, and I think we added the projector. We recently added we continued the operating agreement of the RSCVA with the city on the bowling stadium, which I totally agree with. So I definitely think we all recognize the need for giving love to all of our facilities, and including the bowling stadium, what generates an incredible amount of room nights. The only thing I get concerned with is we've been working on this list. It's in the final, I think Charles has brought up, it'd be great to have this. Let's get this through, get the 2.8, and then let's turn around and focus on how do we get that next bite. We're looking at an 8 or 10-year-old bid. This scoreboard deal, if it was that critical, I think we should have had that bid now or part of this discussion. But, very likely, I may even take the approach that bid might be high. I think we're seeing it with all the screens and video work we do at the Peppermill. It's amazing the prices that have come down. I mean, the same when you go buy a TV, right, at Costco. What was selling 5 years ago is now a couple $100. But I get concerned that we spend this time on a list like this, and in the 11th hour now we're trying to kind of do an audible and change it. We're at move $1 million off of this. I personally am more in favor of let's knock this out, get this item off the agenda, and then look at how we how we hit this. Maybe it's maybe it's part, Mr. Thornley spelled out kind of their plans with the $2 surcharge. That might have to get tweaked a little. Maybe, I don't know if the city has any federal dollars like we're looking at with this 2.8, and then maybe the RSCVA comes in with the remaining. But I really wish we could keep this agenda item alive without messing with it, and then come back around and see how we take the scoreboard issue. But that's my 2 cents.
Go ahead, Mr. Murdoch. Thank you, Mr. Esquaga. Mr. Murdoch.
I think we got to understand one thing. I don't know that the board knows this, but we pay the RSCVA a fee for a bowler. I say we as a hotelier. Any hotelier that's in their deal pays. So, and then the RSCVA also receives lineage from the stadium to the tune of about, I don't know, what is it? Do you guys know off the top what? So the lineage, sorry, thanks. So the lineage, when you look at, I don't know how much our $10 is it 250,000 or whatever it is. So when you take the lineage you guys receive at the RSCVA from the stadium, goes to the RSCVA funding for operations, and you take the $250 that we ship out for $10 per bowler usage of the facility that the RSCVA has, we're basically paying for the convention. I guarantee you there's no other convention in Reno that the properties and the lineage fees pay. I mean, you do get fees for rental, but nothing like what the bowlers do when they pay their way. So basically, you have the RCVA's cost for running a bowling tournament is the operating costs. And it's basically their site fee is reimbursed by the $10 to the properties and the lineage. So really, we got to think in terms of really where the money is really going, and and we're paying our way for that facility. No other convention, am I right? I asked Mr. Largetta that question. Yep. Does any other convention pay for itself? That's a loaded question.
That's a very difficult. That's a very difficult question, Mr. Murdoch.
But do they like this?
I think this is a unique situation. For the record, Mike Largetta. Obviously, when you speak about the bowling stadium, it is a unique venue. But to your point, when you truly just look at the math, the lineage versus the site fees, and then the rebate from the hotel that is provided through the surveys of bowlers that actually consume nights on our property, yes, if you look at the balance sheet, it's a favorable agreement for the RSCVA. And you compare that to other conventions, generally, from our perspective, we either a lot of times are seating conventions or using booking and some money to bring them here, and then we're benefiting from the room tax and hopefully the discretionary spend within the properties. So to your answer, I guess the roundabout answer is yes, you're correct, Mr. Murdoch.
It's the only convention that pays for itself, just say that.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Appreciate that. So
But I want to just
hold
also...
on.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot. I know that there's a lot of discussion around this item, and there's a lot of opinions and very heated, well, not heated, but very passionate about this. Mr. LaFerre, if we were to, and to Mr. Esquaga's point, to move along and continue to move these CapEx improvements and do those types of things, if we were to cut that $1 million in half, and make it $500,000 for the roofing, and then allocate $500,000 to a scoreboard improvement. Mr. Thornley, is there potential from the $2 to do a match of that? And if there is, we could do that here, or what we could do is bring a subsequent item back at a future board meeting to actually have some sort of agreement from between the City of Reno and RSCVA to meet, to Mr. Esquaga's and Mrs. Bybee's point, the needs assessment based upon the needs of the $2 surcharge committee, plus the help of the RSCVA to fulfill the agreements that both parties benefit from. What would be the benefit? I mean, I'm going to go to Mr. LaFerre first. I mean, if we were to kind of split the baby here.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and I might make a suggestion. We were talking about the painting of the bowling stadium. I'm sorry. We're speaking of the painting of the bowling stadium. And Mr. Thornley and I just briefly spoke about it before the meeting, and the city has $700,000 earmarked to that. and that's painting the entire building. We have spoken about this for the last couple of years, and ideally, we should paint from the parapet, which is over the sidewalk, down, and leave the rest of the building alone, because you can't see it from the sidewalk. And we just painted that 7, 8 years ago, whatever it was, and it's fine. So we could save a lot of money from the city on painting just the lower quarter, about the third of the building. And then we could take and augment from our budget, and I think we would meet halfway in the middle for the video scoring wall.
Okay. Mr. Thornley, is that something that would be amenable to the city of Reno and potentially through the $2 surcharge committee?
Of course. So I think, Mr. Chair, as I told Mr. Laffieri earlier this afternoon, as it relates to the paint, I do need to talk to our people who maintain facilities and make sure that they're in agreement that that's a suitable path, because of course, just like deferred maintenance that this body wrestles with in other places, I want to make sure that we are doing our best to stay ahead of that. But in terms of the match idea that you've proposed, I do believe that that's something that $2 account could absorb, and we could move forward.
Okay. So then when I'm something I would propose then, based upon the discussion here today and the comments from Mr. Lafferre and the comments from and kind of the general consensus of the board from what I'm gathering, I think it's probably best that we move forward with the grant funding today as presented, bring back an item in the very next board meeting to address potentially a blended agreement between the City of Reno and RSCVA to address maybe the adjustment of the painting and a match between the RSCVA and the City of Reno to address the scoreboard as soon as possible and get hard numbers specifically of what that cost may be, so that we're not reliant on a 2014 estimate, that we're more reliant on a 2022 and a delivery time based upon that.
That's the critical one, is the delivery time.
Correct, and because I understood it through challenges, and that's, I think that's the urge and the necessity of moving forward as quickly as possible, is because of the ability to get the chain, supply chain issues that we're seeing across the nation and across the world. So, yes, Mr. Fraza.
I do like your idea. Why can't we allocate just out of this grant $500,000 to match the city of Reno? Because we're only meeting every other month. I don't know when we're going to meet. This is time sensitive. I think your idea was a really good idea of
So why don't I
splitting the
make a
baby.
motion? And why don't we just
Let's take a stab at it. Yeah, let's take a stab at a motion.
That's sometimes the easier situation, but I also want to point out, I just want to remind everyone, we've had these conversations about the scoreboard for about like a year, so it's not like something we're just throwing on there, right? I want everyone to understand that. That's important, first and foremost. I thought you had a really good suggestion, so I would make the motion to move forward with these items and include the match from the city and through what you proposed. So it can get included, and that is the challenge, and I hope we're bringing it back to have board meetings monthly, because that's the problem, that things go out too long and then they just sort of linger out there and they don't come back to the board. So I would like to see it included today in that capacity. So the city would match.
So let me see if I can help you with that motion.
And then I would just say this, and also maybe getting a few other bids or whatever that looks like, because they have come down.
Well, Councilman, but hold on, everybody, hold on. Let's see, everybody. Woosah, right? Okay, so everything that's in the estimate today are estimates. They're cost estimates. So there is no hard item. There's no hard line item for the roofing. There's no hard. These are all cost estimates, not hard line items. So you can allocate $500,000 as an estimate, not knowing what the final line item cost would be, and then bring that back, as we're going to do later in the agenda today, to approve RFPs, 2 separate RFPs to do those specific items that are Some of them are actually going to come underneath the estimates that were originally allocated and appropriated for. So these are cost estimates, not true hard numbers. So I think what the mayor is trying to say, and I agree with, if we could approve the number of the $2.8 million for the grant funding today, but to adjust the $1 million that would be allocated for the Reno Sparks Convention Center to $500,000 for roofing, and then utilize the additional $500,000 for the replacement of the National Bowling Stadium scoreboard to be matched by the City of Reno $2 surcharge. Is that your motion, Madam Chair?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that is my, so that's my chair motion on the floor. I have a second from.
Nicely done,
I have a second
Mr.
from Mayor.
Chair.
I'm trying to keep up here. It's a long afternoon. Let's get through this, people. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Is there any further comment from the board? Any further discussion? Are we good? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for the deliberation. We've got through I-1. Okay, now we only have 5 more items to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So what I would propose is that for the next, I'm going to suggest a block. I'm going to block items I-3, I-4, and I-5. These are items that are, and I will go through them really quickly. I-3 is the review and discussion and possible approval of the fiscal 22-23 annual business plan. The changes that were made are very subsequent that were stated in the last board meeting to add room nights to the mission statement and to end the Incline Village to the part of the strategic plan. Those changes have been made and are in your packet for review. I-4 is review and discussion and possible action to approve staff's recommendation to award the request for proposal RFP 2022-04 for the Reno Sparks Convention Center security camera upgrade. That would be awarded to Triumph Electric to upgrade the security cameras in the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority, not to exceed $362,500. That project is part of the capital improvement plan that was approved in the fiscal year 2021-2022 and has already been previously presented and adopted by the Board of Directors. Item I-5 is a review, discussion, and possible action to approve staff's recommendation to award the request for the proposal RFP 2022-05 from the Reno Sparks Convention Reno Sparks Convention Center, sections D3 and U1 roof refurbishment program. The RSCVA Board of Directors is going to award the RFP of 2022-05 for the sections D3 and U1 to D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal Incorporated, a local company, to provide those repairs, not to exceed the amount of $647,450. That roof refurbishment project was included in the capital improvement plan for fiscal 2021-22 and previously presented and adopted by the Board of Directors. That I will make in the form of a motion to block those 3 items. Do I have a second to block those 3 items?
Mr. Chair, can I weigh in real quick here?
Yes, you may.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
So
Mr.
I-3
Kennedy.
is actually not, yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. I-3 is actually the business plan, which is a new document. It's not the revision to the strategic plan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The revision to the strategic plan is G1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. You are doing me a favor from afar today. Look at you. So proud of you.
Brian.
Reblock. I'm going to reblock. Is it G1? It is G1. I'm sorry. So I'm G1 and H1. We could block H1 too. So let's block G1, H1. Let me redo this. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Let me start over. I am proposing in the form of a motion a block vote, items G1, H1, I4, and I5 for general business. G1 was a presentation, review, and possible approval of the revised RSCVA 3-year strategic plan, mission, and community engagement initiatives for FY23 through 2025. These amendments are the mission statement and community engagement initiatives to RSCVA's 3-year strategic plan. These were previously brought forward in a previous meeting and those main amendments have been made and are included in your packet. That is G1. No, I'm sorry, not I3. H1 is Finance Division. This is a review, discussion, possible approval of the property casualty workers' compensation insurance policies for fiscal year 2022-23. The Board of Directors is being asked to review the fiscal year 2022-2023 property casualty workers' compensation insurance policies related to insurance coverage and an amount not to exceed $557,000. Items I4 and I5 I've already read into the record, but I will read in just the agenda item. Review, discussion, and possible action to approve staff's recommendation to award the request for a proposal RFP 2022-04 for the Reno Sparks Convention Center security camera upgrade. I5 is a review, discussion, and possible action to approve staff's recommendation to award the request for proposal RFP 2022-05 for the Reno Sparks Convention Center sections D3 and U1 roof refurbishment project, as listed in the staff report. Those 4 items are being under block. I am making that in the form of motion. Do I have a second for a block?
Second.
I have a block from Vice Chair Silver. I have a motion and a second. Are there any comments on these items? Mr. Kennedy, did I do it right? Are you okay? No comment? I think I'm good.
Yep. Good.
All right. So I've got a motion from myself, second from Ms. Silver to block items G1, H1, I4, and I5. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to item I2. I2, this is review, discussion, and approval of the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority FY 22-23 President and CEO goals. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Harris. Ms. Rezek, do you want to lead us into this?
No, it's to Mr.
Okay,
Harris.
Mr. Harris, okay. Mr. Harris, yours.
Well, I'll be brief because I'm going to defer to the committee, but to reference the board packet, the 22-23 CEO goals in the board packet are 4 different items with sub-goals within them. Each of those goals are elevating the numbers that we presented earlier in this meeting, which we have exceeded. So moving room nights up, marketing goals up, all of the items surrounded it. The one item that is new within the goals itself is supporting airlift. This is goal number 2, the second item in that. And that is a direct request from the board to be able to spend the $1 million that we had in reserves that is going to work with the airport to solve some long-term issues. We have already met with the board once, the airport board once, and have identified 3 different goals. 1, to continue to support the current New York route. 2, to encourage and either bring back East Coast routes or developing new routes. And number 3, to help support educating airport executives for future lift and future routes coming here. With that, I'm going to defer to the subcommittee or open it up to the board around any questions regarding the CEO goals.
Thank you, Charles. I was the committee chair, and I'll read my notes. The Legislative Executive Committee met to review and discuss the proposed CEO goals. The goals presented by Mr. Harris are the result of that meeting. First, for the committee meeting, Mr. Harris prepared a draft goal. The committee went through each goal, discussed both the substance of the goal and the percentages assigned to each goal. The committee had significant discussions related to room nights. The committee universally felt that room nights are the most important goal and agreed that percentage of goal number 1 had to be the highest. The committee did discuss a possible goal related to special events, new corporate business, or event support. Ultimately, the committee felt that the special event funding should produce room nights, which would in turn be measured in goal 1. The committee did alter the percentages in goal 2 for referrals to partner sites and social community size, and the social community size to increase the referrals percentage and evenly distribute the goal weights between the 2 goals. The committee discussed the fact that the airlift has a significant role in winning new business in conventions and events and sustaining room nights in our region. The committee felt that the long-term planning had been complete with the strategic plan and a better goal would be regarding airlift support. As a result, the committee revised the goals, eliminating the proposed long-term planning goal and created a new goal to support airlift. With these changes, the committee voted to recommend the proposed goals as you see them here for approval. I'm going to open this up for the other committee members. Ms. Silver and Councilman Bybee, thank you for being helpful on this. And to add anything, we would like to let you weigh in right now. Thank you.
This is Ann Silver for the record. I think Mr. Murdoch gave an outstanding review of how deliberate we were in being flexible and changing some of the weighting involved. And we spent considerable time discussing room nights and the importance of generating room nights, and also adding the airlift component. They're all tied together, and there's no way we are going to get the kind of room nights and that we want unless we're seeing the travel and tourism coming to this area, specifically if we can help more direct flights to the Reno-Tahoe area. So all I can say is I would hope our colleagues support our deliberate work on revising and approving of these goals.
Both of you pretty much covered how the committee worked, and there's a lot of discussion. It wasn't quick, but it was thorough and really thoughtful, I think, of how we reached the decisions we did, and I'm just really glad we added the airlift. We talked about airline marketing and the airlift being so critical to what we're doing, and adding that and weighting it, I think, was really important, so nothing else to add.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the executive committee and legislative committee too. I'm sorry that I could not participate in that meeting, but thank you for doing all that heavy lifting. This has been very, very detailed in your review of these goals for Mr. Harris. Ms. Keel, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you. I do remember in the last meeting we discussed the airlift. We discussed having a higher weight on the room nights. So thank you to the committee for your work and taking that feedback and adding that in. I do have one question, and apologies if it was in last time, and I didn't ask it last time. I noticed on under the process categories or column how it says that, for example, on room night generation, 70% of bonus if 155 to 179,000 room nights is achieved, there's 70% bonus of that category, if I'm reading it right. And again, maybe I'm misunderstanding. So then that would mean that the CEO would still receive a bonus if our room nights came in at 155,000 when the goal is 220,000?
Ms. Rizek?
That is correct. That is how the process is stated in the goal sheet, and what has been done consistently is that there were ranges. It is up for conversation if those ranges wanted to be changed, but it would be 70% of the 25% allocated to that goal. So it wouldn't be the full 25%, it would be 70% of that 25%.
Right, and it's a little hard. I guess we could do the calculations to figure out, like in some of these instances, wouldn't that mean that if we had achieved less than what we're achieving now, there would still, like, so if we actually went backwards in room nights or in website visitation or anything, there would still be a bonus achieved? Again, I haven't gone through and done all the calcs yet, but I certainly understand if you don't make your goal and you get close, there should still be a percentage given to that. My only concern would be if we go backwards and we decrease, that there shouldn't be a percentage given. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Keel. Mr. Murdoch, do you have a comment? Your mic's on.
I'm sorry.
All right. I do have a comment for the airlift conversation. Mr. Harris and I did review this together and went through this. But as I continue to read through it, it states that the target is to develop a year-long plan to spend dedicated budget dollars for airlift supporting new long-haul flights for fortify current routes and educate airline decision makers, and that's weighted at a 10%, and the bonus is given if the goal is achieved. So we are giving 10% of an overall weighting process if Mr. Harris can draft a plan and spend money. And I don't, not that that's a bad thing, but I think that's a pretty easy goal for anybody to achieve. I don't know how that's, I mean, isn't that the intent of why we put the airlift fund together? And for RASC, I mean, we've spent $1 million to support airlift. This is not very clear in this, you know, and I want to continue to support airlift, and I think it's important, as I've stated at the outset, at the start of this meeting, that it's important to support that. But for our CEO goals, for him to just develop a plan to spend money, he gets a 10% weighting on that process. I'm very sorry, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So maybe I'm looking to the committee to give me some clarification about what their intent or why, you know, just to give bonus based upon if goal is achieved, if he could spend the money and write a year-long plan for 10% of that goal, to me makes, I need some clarification to that. Can somebody answer that for me?
Great question. I have a couple things too, Bob, and I agree on one thing. We thought, because we haven't been using that fund, that our whole premise was that we would tie that fund right away every year to the airport's development. And I did catch something in here, long haul. It should be all new flights resulting, because you're going to get more flights from your hubs than you are from, you're more apt to hit a hub flight than you are Atlanta, Reno. So the point is long haul, it should be all flights, new flights, and that was all how we came up with it. This was brand new and added, and what we did is we took out the strategic plan, which was getting,
Right.
I mean, we felt like Charles was doing the strategic plan anyway. That's what you do as a board chair. So we added support airlift to try and use that money and have him be.
So the intent from Mr. Harris is to develop the plan to actually spend the budgeted, $1 million budgeted. But if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't spend the $1 million, what happens?
Good question. Can't answer that one, Mr. Chair.
I mean, there's a lot of vagueness in 10% of a bonus that is not there in clarification. So, Ms. Bybee, I see you ready to chime in.
If he doesn't meet that goal, he doesn't get the 10% weighting. So you've got 90% on everything else, and depending on where he falls and where we fall, whether our room nights are up or down, wherever each other goal is, which really, I think the weighting gives us all the different criteria, and is he gonna meet all of them? I don't know. Will he meet some of them or most of them? Weighted and broken down so that with our priorities, but I think the intent of this committee on the airline was that $1 million has been sitting there and we haven't been spending it. So putting together a plan to do so, to also work with RASC, with the airport, with, you know, improving our, you know, that airlift is critical to what we're doing. And I get what you're saying on maybe the wording on how we actually define that in this is not maybe as strong as it should have been. And Ms. Silver, can you, you know, do you want to add anything more to that?
I mean,
Still looking for clarity. I'm still lost here.
Could I jump in with one question? And I don't mean to cut you off, Ann, but it might add a little clarity. This is Steve, and I agree. I mean, actually, I think, Bob, you bring up a good point. And I know I've been kind of the squeaky wheel on the airlift fund, you know, since we got it on, I don't know, 4 or 6 years ago. But I think the premise of, and again, I hate Monday morning quarterbacking the committee because this is a tough task of putting this to paper. But, you know, I think it's really develop and execute, you know, and I think adding that, even if the plan, we may learn a lot after doing it one time, but I think giving Charles and his team the charge to say develop and execute this plan. And for example, we all know JFK, we're very concerned going into the fall and winter. And I think even there, I'm sure the discussions with the airport is, hey, that's going to be, if it's not item 1 on the target list, it's, you know, 1A or 1B. But you know, maybe there's a way to, because I'm following what you're saying, Bob, but we're giving them the tools to do this. But I think you could say develop and execute a year-long plan, really hitting, you know, focusing on long haul. I think the bottom line is the increase of seats to the market, but I don't know if that helps get it there a little more. I do want to follow up on, you know, while we're all nitpicking on some of this, but that's what this is for, right? I think Shannon's point is really a good one on the room night generation, that, you know, maybe it's up to 90% that first tranche that you have, 90% bonus to the goal, and after that, I mean, maybe I could be convinced to go to 80, but Shannon brings up a good point that at what point are we giving a bonus for being less than year prior?
Well, and I'm going to go to Ms. Silver right next. And Mr. Squaga, your point is goals, in my opinion, and maybe I'm missing basically I'm just simple about this, but goals should be something that are above and beyond where we currently are. They're goals, not just a sustained, there are expectations and then there's goals. And to go backwards would be a loss of expectation, which would be, you know, and now I understand there are circumstances that could create, you know, that are out of Mr. Harris's realm of expertise and ability and purview. My point is that goals should be goals. Goals should be very, very specific, and goals should have an actual further point than where we currently sit today. And when we talk about airlift, it's vague, and it's still 10% of a very long, but it's a heavy percentage, 10% of a goal. That's very vague. So if he spends $999,000 but doesn't get the last $1,000 spent, he doesn't get that 10%. That's a challenge with that goal. It's very vague, not very clear. Secondly, to Mr. Esquaga and Ms. Keel's point, that is a reverse. If we hit 155, we're going backwards, then I agree. You know, taking some of these, you know, maybe make it at 90 or 80% if he gets to the 299,000, and then if he goes above and beyond the 220 or 400, he gets 25%. The problem is it's very convoluted, and it's very difficult to do this tiered, very system like this. And so I understand this is what we've done in the years past. I understand we're trying to provide direction to Mr. Harris about moving forward and what we'd like to see based upon the strategic plan and what we're trying to achieve. But if we are not specific as a board and we give a lot of vague discretion, then Mr. Harris finds himself in a unique position where he's asking questions of like, what am I doing? Am I doing it correctly? Am I doing it incorrectly? How am I supposed to spend this money? What am I supposed to be doing? If we're not giving him those directions now and those goals right today, then we're doing him a disservice by not really outlining specifically what this board expects and what they do. Because if we just say develop a year-long plan, and I understand what Mr. Esquaga is saying, and I agree, you have to start somewhere, but you gotta have a little bit more specificity of really what you're trying to achieve than just saying, hey, spend the money. Let's write a plan. So, Mr. Harris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. A couple things, just point of information. And I know the subcommittee spent a lot of time talking about this and getting to consensus. Point of information number one, and doesn't mean we have to move forward, but the goal number one when it came to the produced room nights is synonymous with what was done a year ago. So the board had endorsed the same sort of format. If you want to change that, certainly that's up to the board. That's just a point of information. Point number two is on the airlift, that was not even one of the goals that I suggested. I had suggested a different goal, which the subcommittee came back and said, no, airlift is more important. This is what we went on there. The reason why we came up with the 3 items was a meeting that Christina and I had with the airport to identify really what the needs were to be able to develop a plan anticipating that that might be part of my goals. And one was fortify the New York flight, that we don't lose that. 2, help bring back either long-term flights that existed or identify new long-term flights. And number 3 was to educate decision makers with airlines because we need to get them here and educate them for additional flights. This was not something that we pulled out of the air. This was working with the airport to develop that with the guidance of the subcommittee to make that a goal. How you alter that and approve that, that is for discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Silver.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I realize, we can argue about the semantics, but as a committee, having spent a lot of time on this, it was, first of all, as Mr. Harris indicated, something new that we felt very strongly about, that there be active engagement by RSCVA with that $1 million and develop a plan how that would tie into room nights. RASC is a different organization, works on certain things. We wanted Charles to get actively involved in the utilization of the money and to help us understand how, in supporting various flights, whether it's the red eye to New York, JFK, or something else, how that would be coordinated between RASC and RSCVA. Do I think we could alter the wording to reflect a bit more of the quantity and quality you're looking for, Mr. Chair? I do, but that was our intent, to say it's one thing to have the money, it's another thing to actively engage yourself in utilization of it in a way that supports the remainder of the goals. And that was our logic when we discussed it.
And thank you, Ms. Silver, and I appreciate the clarification, but, and I agree, I don't disagree with the intent of the committee. What I'm trying to do, and I think actually Charles did a very more eloquent job in regards to speaking directly to preserving the long hauls for Baltimore or Minneapolis or whatever we have potentials of losing. Those should be specific. Preserving new long haul flights. If we're able to go and procure a new long haul flight, that qualifies as qualification. What says just developing a year-long plan and supporting new long-haul flights? There's not enough specificity in here. Might as well just give him the 10% no matter what he spends on. That's not a goal. Well, and I would disagree, and I'm sorry, ma'am, but I would disagree that those are not, that's not necessarily a goal. I believe that as a duty of a CEO to do. I'm very sorry. I'll be that person in the room. But this is we do have that line item. We've spent that money in the budget. We've augmented and allocated and appropriated that money. That money should be spent. No different than a special events money, no different than our operating money, no more different than our marketing budget. It should be spent annually at the discretion of the CEO to make sure that these things happen, and to base a goal very vaguely upon that is not, in my opinion, worthy of a goal. These are worthy of a goal. If these things can be achieved, because this is progress, this is growth. This is not growth, in my opinion. This is not additional growth. Ms. Silver.
The good news is that we put it in the goals. It had never been in the goals. So that was one thing we felt strongly about. To your point, you're looking for language that is more specific and holds Mr. Harris accountable for the expenditure of those funds and the purpose for which they're used. And I think we can all agree that the wording could be more specific, but I give us credit for introducing a goal relative to airlift, because for all the years that there were goals for any CEO, there was never specific language to collaborate extensively with RASC and the airport board to articulate exactly what influence the RSCVA could have on long-haul flights, more direct connections or lack of connections, direct flights, and certainly getting the RSCVA at the table with decision makers when those flights are being discussed. So if there's a more articulate way to phrase this, I think first we did a good job by insisting that airlift work be in there. But to your point, I would agree. We're not going to extend a bonus for something that is a responsibility. But A, we wanted to identify it as a responsibility, and perhaps what you're looking for is more of a stretch goal. How exactly do we find his exceeding the opportunity, not just to have money, but to utilize it effectively?
And I agree with you. Hold on one second, Mr. Fraza. I agree with you, and I thank you for that clarification. And for history, 7 years that I've been on this board, I have attended Alaska Airlines, Southwest, AHA, I've done that as a board member, and it has been the responsibility of the CEO to attend those meetings. The CEO has come with me, along with the CEO of the airport and members of the airport board to do that. That is a job of the CEO. And I appreciate what you're trying to say. So if this is a goal, then I would be more happy to see this goal be specific to what Mr. Harris already outlined, as saying preserving the current out and trying to increase maybe ridership on those certain long hauls, procuring new long hauls, and having routine meetings to educate airline decision makers about our area, whether that's investing in the Reno air races and inviting every CEO or CFO and COO from every major airline and flying them in and hosting them and taking them through our community and talking to them about their managers. But just to say, to spend the money and develop a plan is not, that should be basic, that is basic guidance for a CEO, not a goal. And those are my opinions. Mr. Sfraza.
Questions. Mr. Harris, you mentioned that you had a goal that, that wasn't with the committee. I'm curious what that is. And I know we're having this lively discussion, but I just want the public to know you didn't set these goals. Like, we're looking at it as a board. So I'm curious what that is. I actually tend to agree with, I respect the committee for the work. I think special events should be on here instead of the airline thing. And I am the airport rep, but I think that it's in the legislation to do just that. And I'm confident our CEO can do that. But I'm curious what was not added that you thought should be part of these performance measures.
So the one thing that I brought to the table was feedback that I got from the board at a previous meeting, and that was around examining a long-term master plan, and it was engaging potentially an outside consultant to help drive that over a 3 to 5 year period to meet with the community, develop that plan, and really tie it back into the city in terms of what we were doing. And really the feedback from the subcommittee was, that's important, but right now, we haven't done anything with the airport. There is some risk with the airlines serving long-term, long-haul flights, and that's what they wanted to focus on. I will say, just as a side comment, is I don't think we ever talked about spending that $1 million, because the $1 million, since I got here, was set up as to support minimum revenue guarantees or opportunities for new flights. This is to be able to fortify what we were trying to do, working with the airport, so that one, we didn't lose that long haul service. Two, that we're going to support to try to win back Atlanta and Charlotte that have been seasonal. And three, how do we then get developed for places like Baltimore or DC, or places that would help us both from a leisure and a meeting and convention side.
I actually support, I'm going to throw this out here, I think getting to a middle ground here, I actually support his recommendation. I guess I've been screaming about the river and the convention I think the master plan is so important to everything else we're doing. And quite frankly, I'm glad our CEO identified that as one of the goals. I do feel that the airlift, of course, that's important. I serve as the trustee from the airport, but I do believe that I think our CEO is on it. I think that plan is coming back. I believe our CEO, Darren, is coming and presenting this at our next board meeting. But I believe that we're running full speed ahead. I tend to agree with the chairman on part of the job description, but the master plan is so important, and it's been identified in every strategic plan. You just go back and read of what that looks like and how it comes up is number one of the number ones constantly. What's surrounding our convention facilities, what's surrounding, and I think this, not to have that is a goal. I'm just throwing it out there. I think that's absolutely critical and immeasurable a goal to have. So
thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to go to Mr. Murdoch, and then I'll go to Councilman Bybee.
First of all, there's only 3 of us on this committee, and it was recommendations back to this board. So we appreciate the input. I want you to know this was not etched in a prehistoric stone. So we appreciate it. Give it to us straight up, and we'll get to the right plan. So I want you to know that. And secondly, let's I go back to air service. When you go look at air service, if you don't have an air service, you don't have a convention. So we are losing air service. I want to reiterate this because of pilot shortages, because of aircraft shortages. I think we got to think really big out of the box to how to subsidize. And it's just not, it's flights from Dallas. It's flights from Denver. We're not getting flights, they're pulling them. So that point, and I'm not taking it personal, but I want the rest of this board, we really wanted you guys to weigh in. I did it. Personally, we just took our best shot at it, and this was a format we used. If you wanted to blow up the format, please do.
No, I don't want anybody
I'm
to
okay
take
with
this. I don't want to take anybody to take the comments personal. This is a business meeting, and I think that what the board did, I think what the subcommittee did was it did a great job. So, Mr. Frost, can you turn your mic off? I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To your point on the master planning, I see that as part of our strategic plan. That's part of our job in the strategic plan. That's on another agenda item when we're looking at the annual plan. So the master planning, this is bringing in a third party from outside to help us do that. Maybe we'll need that, I don't know. But I kind of look at, we brought the other company in to help us put together a strategic plan. We have an annual plan as that first step. So I see us moving in the direction we need to. On the airline item, I think, and Mr. Chair, I think the way that this was worded for sure makes it look like it's just developing the plan to spend the money, but if you look at the next items on it, they weren't spelled out individually, and maybe the metrics too, because I guess, and I would agree with you, how do we measure, what is the metric for success? What is the metric for the long haul, for the New York? I need more, I think more specific, I can't even say it. To be more specific, the long haul, returning, maintaining the New York flight, bringing in other specific flights. How many times, like you mentioned, that you're meeting with, not just going when the airlines are here, but bringing them here like we did together with the airport, and that retreat was awesome. So specific, measurable. We're missing, all these others have the great specific measurable goals, and we don't have that in this. So I see a need for looking to add that. I would be willing to look, and I don't know that you're ready for a motion, to accept this with perhaps coming back to the airline piece with measurable goals that we could agree upon and approve at a future meeting.
So let me take a shot at this. Now that I've heard everybody's comments and everybody's heard my belabored comments about this, and I do want to, I don't want anybody to take this personally. I do believe that the work, this is a very difficult job, and unfortunately I missed this last meeting due to scheduling, but I have been at this meeting, and it's tough to develop these goals. It's not an easy task, and Molly and I have racked our heads about this multiple times over for the last 7 years doing this, but it's not easy. So let's take a stab at it. I think the goals are fine. If there's some adjustments that would like to be made to the room night, the room night, we can address that maybe at a future meeting. But what I would recommend is that we continue to keep the airlift in there, but change the weighting from 10% to 5%, and add in the specificity that to maintain current long haul and increase potential new long haul flights, or all flights. All flights. Let's do that. Let's just say all flights. And continue to integrate ourselves with all the decision makers with all the airlines in conjunction with the airport authority. Then what I would say, under not goal 2, but maybe a goal 5, which was originally in there, which was goal 5, which is long-term planning, have that be a 5% weighted goal to initiate a destination master plan by developing an RFP, secure a third-party partner, and developing an overall plan. And if you can secure the partners, lay out the roadmap, and really address a true master plan to be brought back, that would be a 5% weighted goal based upon comments and concerns from the board. Does that sound amenable? Are there any questions about that? Madam Mayor? I've seen raised hands.
First
I'm
of
going,
all, I just want to
"Hey,
thank
we're
the
gonna-"
committee, honestly, for your hard work, because I know we've gone through this before, and we were here before. Do you remember that, the last time we did this? And we were kind of jumping all around. We couldn't sort of
Oh.
figure out, because it was new, and so I do think this is a really good starting point. So don't kind of like, I think we're all just sort of putting in the things that are important. So I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, because it wasn't easy. We didn't know. Remember, it was so unpredictable with COVID, and it was so unpredictable with everything. So I think we finally now have a starting off point. So this is really, really good. So I want to just thank, I think Ann is on that, and Rick, and Charlene, and Bob, I think, is on that.
Yeah, Bob's on it.
Yeah, so I think you guys have done a really, really good job. Is this the final, or is?
No, so this is not, this is
We're
the
just
this is the
crafting
final for this year.
Okay.
But this could be augmented. The board can augment the
back.
goals
Okay.
if they so see fit, if they need to throughout the year. But we want to give him at least a launching pad, but this is what's, we have to describe it for his contract. That is what's been listed. So this is, we're trying to get away from augmenting it, but maybe we want to give at least the basic of what the goals are and the weight to those.
Sure.
Maybe the specificity
So-
about achieving those goals can
Yeah.
be cleared up in a future meeting, so that there is more clarifying nature, so if there's direction that Mr. Harris is kind of going, well, where do I go with all of this? You know,
Okay.
and giving him that specificity.
So-
We put those specificities in there, so.
Okay, for me, I just want to put out there, this is one of my biggest, and it's one of my most important, and it really is at the city and sort of on every aspect, because I really believe it's your people that make you the most successful. Without them, none of this would happen. None of this would be possible at all. I do think new events and conferences, and along with some local events, there should be some metrics in there somehow. But what I would say, it's really important, I think, team culture and doing a survey of, I think actually almost all your entire staff. I know we wanted to do a survey of just executive staff. It really needs to be the entire, because it is the trickle-down effect. It really is the culture and how people are working with you. And are you also touching people that might not be senior level? Are you making a difference in sort of their jobs at that other level where you are the leader? And so I think checking in with that, the team culture should be number one. Without it, it's really hard to get your team motivated, wanting to be on the same page, and coming to work, quite honestly. And that's when I noticed that we are the most effective. That's one of the things that we have really changed at the City of Reno, that Doug has made a priority, and it has been tremendous, honestly, just tremendous engagement and participation. And people are saying to me they've never seen the culture so good at the city. And that's really, it's a testament to Doug and his leadership. So I would love to see included that there must be a organization-wide survey of your team.
Okay.
If I could just make a comment about that,
Madam
because I
S-
don't
yes,
disagree with
Ms.
Madam
Silver.
Mayor, thank you. I don't disagree that culture is important, morale is important, reduced turnover, good recruitment efforts, et cetera. But much as the chair said before, that's his job. And he's paid he's our only employee. Charles is the only employee we have. And our measurement is not of how the staff feels about him, it's how we feel about him. And so, to your point, while I think it's a good one, I don't know how to, I always think with surveys, be careful what you wish for, because what do you do with the responses? Are we all going to sit here and discuss the responses of a survey relative to Mr. Harris? So we did discuss that. There was no doubt that we talked about staffing and organizational planning and those kinds of things. But the feeling was, how do you then
Well, we should
measure?
check the temperature. We should know how the organization and the people that work for him feel.
So let me kind of bring this back in. So I don't disagree with you, Madam Mayor, and so, but I want to make sure, that would probably fall more under the review process.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that probably gets adhered to in the review process, because this is more the goals for what we want him to achieve.
Okay.
Versus the review process. So maybe that's something and that's upcoming. is the review process. He will have an annual review, and that's upcoming. And so we can discuss that going into that, about what that review process looks like. Mr. Harris.
Thank you. And just to comment, Mr. Chair, I think reducing the 10 to 5% is great. Adding the item in for developing the master plan is fantastic at 5%. I think that's great. There's a budgetary issue that we'll have to look at as we look at an RFP on the outside that is not accounted for right now in the current budget, so we'd have to look at that during the augmentation to be able to issue that RFP. But I just want to emphasize here one thing. When you evaluate a leader, and I would do this with my own team or in previous jobs I have, you want to have as much quantitative goals as you can in an evaluation. Not everything's quantitative. Part of that is that leadership that you need to evaluate. And what I would tell you when it comes to the airport is we need to develop a plan and execute a plan. Whether it's spending the million, whether it's spending 500,000 or 800,000, I cannot influence the decision makers to say, we're bringing back Charlotte. By the way, I don't know if anybody knows in the room, maybe you can tell me, how many total gates do we have still open to get new airlift? I don't know. I don't control that. What I can try to do is fortify what we have, try to build something new, and educate people. And so I would encourage you, don't make that a quantitative goal, make it a qualitative goal that we have to develop and execute a plan, and then evaluate me on that plan, on what we did. I would put back the 5% for the master plan. And in regards to the mayor, I worry about what the staff and the culture, and that's why I try to over-communicate with them all the time. But if I have one employee that's not happy with me and that's coming after me, that should be in the review process where there are questions that are already set up to do that, and I think that that continues during this process. I don't believe it belongs in the evaluation of goals.
Well, I just want to make sure it happens somewhere, because it is so important, so someplace.
Yeah.
Because I felt like we got pushed back on that last time.
Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you. I do like the idea, and I know we kicked it around, and it was a hard one, because to me, I'm a really simple mind, generation of room nights is number one. And we kicked it, and it was about special events, new conventions, aligning yourself with the university, bringing in an NCAA player, anything it could be. We were hoping that it could be in the goals, but it was hard because what the committee fought with was how do we measure it success, and it's room nights. But sometimes when you're looking at room night generation, you got to start somewhere, and you got to say, okay, we're going to invest, we're going to do the NCAA. I'm just hypothetical, please. But again, it's called a special event. It's called a special corporate meeting. It's called a new convention. I wish we could be more specific for him on that, just to help him too, because it gives everybody clearance that the team should be out talking and developing and coming back to Charles, who's the CEO, and he says, oh, I like it. Let's take a shot at it. Because if you hit 3 out of 5 goals, you're pretty good.
Well, and I'm going to go to Ms. Bybee really quick here in a second. So based upon the discussion that we've had, right now goal 1, which is room night generation, is the heaviest weighted goal in there. 35% of his bonus would, or nope, 35, because goal 1 include. Nothing like being corrected every day. 35% of goal 1 represents 35% of the total goal achievement. Goal 2, if we were to adjust airlift from 10% to 5, would represent 30% of his overall goal achievement. Goal 3 would be 15, goal 4 would be 15, and then in the addition of goal 5 would be a 5% for the master plan. Multiple of those would be qualitative. And I agree with Mr. Harris that he does not have within his purview to procure or drive decision makers of airlift, but he can participate. And so a plan, so reducing that from 10 to 5 allows me a little bit more ease of the vagueness of this to develop the plan and work, because as he's iterated today, that he has that capability and willingness to do. I think 5% would be satisfactory for the current draft as it is, with the addition of the 5% for the master plan. So all comments being said, I would make the motion that we make those amendments to the goal with the comment that through the review process, when we go back and review goals and budget and whatnot for a year long for his contract, that there is a discussion about organization culture, organization sustainability, employee, and whatnot. Is that acceptable? That's my motion. Is there a second for that motion?
Second for that
There's a second for that motion. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Frost.
Mr. Chair, this is Jen. I'm sorry, I'm just looking through this again. I can't approve the motion because in many of these categories, we're basically giving him a bonus, like for website sessions. If we decrease website sessions from 2.5 million to 1.9 million, we're going to be giving a 10% bonus, if I'm reading it correctly. And I just can't, I can't agree to that.
Let's clarify, I agree with you, Shannon. Let's clarify that there isn't a bonus unless there's an increase in that category. Like, why would we, and in my mind, the bonus is meant for an increase. So I think we should change that. I'm not reading it that way. And you shouldn't be penalized if you don't hit one of them on the rest of them. So I'm like the room nights, since that is our biggest, and to me, special events, all that falls in, amend it, Shannon, how you feel comfortable. I'm supportive of that, to do increase. The bonus should be on the increase.
So maybe a potential option could be, Ms. Keel, is that we do an increase of Mr. Harris would receive 70% if there is a 10% increase over the year previous, 20 or I mean, do you have some suggestions, Ms. Keel?
Well, I guess I would just need clarification from the committee because, or staff, because they might know better. And again, I might just be reading it wrong. So like, what are the website sessions right now? What's the baseline that we're comparing to?
Okay, what were the room nights last year? What were the room nights last year?
So like, is it 2.5
The goal was,
million?
the goal, I'm sorry, Ms. Keel, the goal was 2065, and the achieved was 215,795.
215,795.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, just every single number in here has been increased year over year, right? We're up 25% from room nights from when I first started, and so we are moving in that right direction. When it comes to, for example, Goal 1B, the goal was develop 4 programs for our hotels during needs periods to do that. We doubled that to 8. So I understand what the committee's saying and the group is saying. Make it all or nothing at that point. If you hit that number or more.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 70, like the first one's hard because it's not. We're saying 76% of pre-pandemic, so that's why I was kind of using goal 2 as an example. But like, is it if he gets 70% of the 10% increase? So like,
correct. So he gets 70%
7%?
of the 25% weighting. So it would be
No, I get that part.
What?
But I get the 70% of what I guess what I'm saying is I get the 70% of the 10%, but what is, okay, 2.1 million to 1.9 million, just using that as an example, is that an increase over what we're doing now, or is that a decrease? Because that would help me tremendously if I knew that.
Christina, can you tell us what our visitor sessions were for last year?
I think I understand what Shannon is saying, is what I was saying. Because, I mean, just cutting it off at flat from last year. So, as we're saying, we want to increase sessions at 10% from last year. If it's below last year's number, there's no award.
Correct.
So that 70% is essentially 7% increase in followers.
So I guess that's a weird question.
what she's
What was the actual last year's unique website sessions over 10%? What was the actual total?
Okay.
What was last year's number?
I do have that.
Can we bring this back?
Could I?
No, we can't because we have to get it done. It's on.
Can I just ask Molly one question? This always seems to be one of those discussions where we have a lot of feelings and ideas and those kinds of things. Have we ever in the past, or can you remember, have we reached out to like the RSCVA or other CVBs so that we kind of like have sort of a map of like how it looks?
We have
See what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, is
So
that
I believe,
helpful?
I believe previous committees have spoken with LVCVA. That did not happen this year. This format was developed with On Strategy. And so in the past, On Strategy had assisted with all of those numbers as the consultant related to, with our strategic plan, where our room nights would be year over year, what the goals were, and
Okay.
they were tied to that.
Okay.
And so, and I believe On Strategy probably reached out to LVCVA and others when that was developed, but it's been a while.
I think it's good. I don't.
No, I think it's good
all
too.
the
I'm
cats
just curious what, like, others were doing. Are we, you know, I think we're all trying to go, is this right? Is this wrong?
No, we,
Mr.
I know,
Chair.
I think we're
I
going in the
actually,
right
I
direction.
sat, when I sat with Rossi Rollencotter when we did this, when Lawrence Weekly was the chair, and we did go through this, and this is what they evaluated Rossi off of. Mr. Larragette.
I was just going to make a comment. Mike Larragetta for the record. I know we are staff, and Charles obviously is CEO, so there's a difference there. But maybe this is a concept, an idea that could be applicable to this first goal, excluding the tourism side with the OTIs. But it directly as it relates to the group room night goal, the way it's always been structured since I have been here from the sales component was the tier went down to a percentage. So in my case, it was 94. That always resulted in a number that was higher than the prior year goal. That's where it started. So you had to hit the prior year goal before you started getting compensated in a bonus for that goal. Just a concept. I mean,
And I agree with you. And I think, and so what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm suggesting, I'll amend my motion specifically to goal 1 to address Ms. Keel's, is that the goal is not awarded or weighted until the 215,795 room nights that were the goal achieved from the year before even starts, and then it tiers up based upon that, correct? Two tiers. So you want a certain percentage. If it hits 215 to a 250, then it's a certain amount. And if it exceeds 250, then it exceeds another amount. Okay, so 215 and somewhere between 215 and 220, he gets 75%. Anything above 220, 240, he gets 100%. You know, whatever, because that's truly, to me, a goal. Would that be more of an understanding to you, Ms. Keel?
It would, but you can apply that logic to all the rest of them too.
Okay.
All the other measurable goals.
So let's do that. So let me rework this for a second. I've found you. All right. We're going to adjust the weighting process to read that bonuses will be calculated on the following: if room night or if the previous year's numbers are met, a 75% bonus of the weighting process would be accepted up to the 2023 targeted number. Anything above the 2023 number would be 100% of the weighted process. For all recommended weighted goals, that would be items goal 1 with the room nights, that would be goal 2 with the website sessions, that would be goal 2 with the referrals to partner sites, and that would be goal 2 with the social community size. Does that work for everybody? I'm looking to legal counsel. She's giving me the nod. All right. All right. Whew. Yes, everybody, we made it.
Wait, you still got to do the percentages on that.
Oh yeah, no, I already laid that one out. This was my amendment. So I'm amending my motion to include what I just stated. Does my seconder agree?
Yes.
My seconder agrees. There's no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. You've been very, very helpful this afternoon. All right, here we go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to I3. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Harris. This is a review discussion. I would like to move as quickly as possible through these last items.
We need monthly meetings. I'm just going to say too much business
I know.
on the agenda, trying to rush
Hold
through.
on, Ms. Safraza. You're getting out of line.
Sorry.
Order.
Sorry.
You'll have an opportunity at the end to speak, ma'am. I3, review, discussion, and possible approval for the fiscal year 2022 annual business review plan. Mr. Harris, please take us through this as quickly as possible.
I'm going to take us through as quickly as possible. This board has approved a 3-year strategic plan, okay? Within that 3-year strategic plan, we also now have goals that are set up for the following year. The individual business plan for the year that is in your packet outlines year 1 of that 3-year strategic plan. So it all ladders up to the 3-year plan, including the CEO goals, that is laid out with the tactics around it. There are no surprises. This is part of that 3-year plan, year 1 going towards 3. So we have the CEO goals, we've got year 1 goals as part of the 3-year plan. Next year we'll come back and we'll talk about year 2. So there's no surprises. That is what is in the draft for you to review. I put that back now to the chair to approve the 1-year business plan.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Are there any changes or comments that would like to be made to the annual plan?
Mr. Chair, if I can add one more other thing. On the final page of the packet within your, there's a cheat sheet that is a 1-pager that talks about those goals. They will be updated to reflect any changes that we talked about today, but that lines up in our 3 pillars in that strategic plan. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or changes? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, looking for a motion to approve the annual plan as posted.
I will make a motion.
I have a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the first year of the 3-year strategic plan as presented.
All right, I have a motion from Councilwoman Bybee, second from Mr. Murdoch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously with all members voting. Let's move on to item 6. This is a review, discussion, and possible action for possible funding for the Miss USA pageant over the 3 consecutive years. The RSCVA Board of Directors is being asked to review, discuss, and possibly take action to approve the request from IMG Universe LLC, owners of Miss USA organization, to provide funding for the 2022, 2023, 2024 Miss USA, Miss Teen USA pageants to take place in Reno Sparks, not to amount not to exceed $250,000 for each year. From historical, for the board's just information, this board did approve the CEO to go out and negotiate a 1-year deal with IMG for the 2022, but at the same time did direct Mr. Harris to go forward and conduct negotiations to bring a 3-year deal back. That 3-year deal has been negotiated and is being brought back to this board, and so I will turn it over to Mr. Harris for any further commentary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have an agreement in place for a 3-year contract with Miss USA pending this board's approval, $250,000 per year starting in 2022 going through 2024. The room nights associated with that are a minimum of 1,800 room nights per year, which is in line with what took place the last time they were here. The marketing deliverables for Miss USA is also in line with 2019 minimum, and we also put in some negotiating points to develop more content to deliver beyond that. That being said, we do need the board to approve 23 and 24. 22 has been signed, and the language of the contract for the last 2 years reflects identically to 2022. One note that we put in the contract that if for any reason Miss USA decides not to move forward after year 1 in that contract, there is a $50,000 clawback clause that the RSCVA would get for aligning the efforts and the initiative to do that. So that's just a recovery, what we would have if it didn't happen. My understanding is that the headquarter hotel for that has completed their negotiations, and that is in place pending board approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. Any comments or questions for Mr. Harris in regards to the future comment?
Super quick comment.
Yes.
Mr. Harris, thank you, because you did exactly, the board gave you the autonomy to do it. This is what we want you to do. Thank you very much. Great job.
Mrs. Safraza.
For the CEO, because just like bowling or whatever, do you think 3 years in a row, I know we wanted it, and I certainly appreciate it. I don't know if you guys looked at staggering, but that's my only question, and I'm 1,000% supportive of this.
Charles Harris for the record. Jessica, what we did is the initial ask that I made was every 3 years. And so I tried to stagger it, but in the negotiations and where they were, they felt it's best that we do 3 consecutive. I worked with the headquarter hotel, and they were in support of that, so we moved forward.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right. Ms. Keel has left the meeting. Unfortunately, she had to move on. All right, so we have do we have a motion to accept the 3-year agreement with IMG for the Miss USA brand pageant?
I have a motion.
I have a motion by Madam Mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Vice Chair Silver. Any further, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to our order of business. That is now, I'm playing shift around, F1. All right, so this is F1, ladies and gentlemen. This is the pursuant to RSCVA's board appointment from the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, RTAA, Board of Directors seat pursuant to NRS 244A.601 1.D.1. Mr. Kennedy, please take us into this.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The seat currently held by Ms. Ferraza, her term is up. In your materials, you have a letter from Mr. Darren Griffin over with the Airport Authority providing 2 nominees for the seat, Ms. Ferraza and Mr. Sean Carey. This is a 2-year appointment and would become effective immediately. With these appointments, it's open for discussion by the entire board, but only the elected officials vote. So with that, unless there's any questions, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Appreciate that. All right, any discussion on the board of on the appointment?
I just have a question of
Ms. Silver.
clarification. When Mr. Kennedy said that Ms. Ferraza expires.
Her current term.
I didn't know what that was.
She's dead. She's expired.
I'm sorry, that her term
Her
expires.
current Reno Tahoe RSCVA term has expired. Currently, and her current term is she's sitting.
Current term.
Correct.
But we're
she's
going to
completed.
elect
She's
someone
completed
to complete
2-year
the next
term.
term.
She's allowed two
Got it.
two-year terms, and
Got it.
she's completed her first 2 years.
Thank you.
And so she's allowed for her.
Actually, just want to clear up the record. I believe, and Ms. Ferraza, correct me if you're wrong, I believe you served for the remainder of Mr.
That's right.
Farahi's
I'm sorry.
term.
She
vacated.
served. She concluded the last year of Mr. Farahi's term from the Airport Authority. She was
what I was
actually
trying to
one of the 2 years. So yes, but yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silver. Any other further discussion?
We've done both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there isn't any discussion, then is there any public comment on this item? See no public comment. I would make the motion that we reappoint Ms. Jessica Safraza from the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority Board of Directors seat pursuant to NRS 244 for the RSCVA Board of Directors. Well, looking for a motion? Second. I'm looking for a second. I'm sorry, not a motion. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I would be happy to second the motion and a brief comment before we vote on Mr. Sean Carey. And thank you for sitting through this very long meeting. And you might have changed your mind just sitting there. My respect for Mr. Carey as the City of Sparks representative to the Airport Authority for so many years. He is such besides being a city manager, my heart, obviously is with Sean and with the good work that he does. And thank you so much for putting your name in for consideration. I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bybee. So I have a motion and a second. And Mr. Carey, thank you for applying for this position. Thank you for all your work that you do at the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. Very, very much an important role that you play over there, especially as chair. So thank you for that. All right, so I have a motion and a second on the floor. A motion by myself, second by Councilwoman Bybee. This is a vote for only the electeds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with the 3 electeds supporting the motion. Thank you. Congratulations. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are to the last item. We are to the last item of our business day. This is item F2. This is the election of the RSCVA Board Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary and Treasurer of the Board of Directors. This is a 2-year appointment to each of these seats, and this is pursuant to NRS 244A.601 and 244A.605. For clarity, the board chair has to be an elected official. The vice chair and secretary can be filled by any member of the board. We will take this. We can take each item independently. We can take them as a whole. This does rotate. This is a 2-year appointment to each of these seats. With that, Mr. Kennedy, do you have anything that I missed that you would like to add to that?
So typically the procedure we use, we vote on them one at a time. You open the floor for nominations. Nominations are made. You close the floor, and then the vote is had. As far as also secretary and treasurer, we typically would combine that into one position. And to do that, we need a motion to combine them. When that motion passes, then they'd be elected just like any of the other positions.
Mr. Kennedy, just for clarification, Mr. Esquaga serves as our current secretary and treasurer, does he not?
I believe so, correct. And the clerk can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's right.
And he became the secretary treasurer not too long ago when he became on the board, correct? After the departure of Mr. Sturbins. He has done a wonderful job.
Mr. Sturbins, yep.
You can look to, he's so excited. All right, with that clarification, I'd like to, we've had lots of discussion, and it's been an opportunity, it's really been a pleasure to serve as chair at this board. Like I said at the start of the meeting, this is my favorite board. Honestly, my favorite board. You have been a phenomenal, I've got the opportunity to work with a phenomenal group of people over the last 7 years, and the conversations have been difficult at times, but very fun and enlightening, obviously. And I really do believe that this is a powerhouse board of very strong-minded, strong-willed individuals, and it takes a lot for any chair to run this board, but that's what makes it exciting and fun. And so I want to thank you all for the spirited conversations and always the constant discussion. This does change, and I would make the motion today to elect Charlene Bybee as chair of the RSCVA on an ongoing basis. I would also make the motion to elect Madam Mayor as vice chair going forward in her, and then I would make in that motion. I'm sorry. I'm not making motions. I'm sorry. I quit. It's been a long day. I'm with this 1 month meeting thing. All right. Nominations. Let me start back. Let me go back. Now, can I get nominations for a chair, please? Okay. So I've got a nomination. For chair for Charlene Bybee as the next chair of the RSCVA. I'm going to close nominations. Are there? What's your? Okay. They're gonna hold her. They're gonna hold her hostage.
I can't.
Come on, don't hold me hostage. It's been so long. It's just only 5 o'clock. Come on, business day's over. All right, so I'm closing nominations. I have a nomination for Charlene Bybee to take over chair as of the RSCVA. Seeing no further nominations, I will make a motion to elect Charlene Bybee as the chair of the RSCVA, and this is allowed to be voted on by all board members. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Charlene Bybee, congratulations, you are chair. Madam Chair.
Thank you. So are you opening, we'll open nominations for the vice chair. I'll take nominations.
I would like to nominate Stephen Esquaga as vice chair.
Okay. I have a nomination for Stephen Esquaga for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Madam Mayor for vice chair.
I have 2 nominations. Do I have any other nominations?
I think it's good to have the elected.
Oh, you know what? Can I ask the attorneys on, Ben, Are the other positions allowed to be held by electeds? Or is the electeds only allowed?
Any member of the board.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Chair has to be elected, the other positions can be anyone?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make
Correct.
that clear. Okay, so Madam Mayor, did you want to accept that nomination or no? Yes?
If Stephen wants it, I'm happy to give it to him. Like I said, it's all you, Stephen. It's total, if you want it.
No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, okay. I do have.
That's not how it works. Nominations are nominations.
The only reason I ask that is sometimes people will throw out names and you don't really know if they have the time or. Too many microphones on.
Too many on.
Okay, no, the only reason I ask is sometimes there are people that someone will throw out a name and that you have not spoken to them about the time and the commitment that they want to put into it. So that's the only reason. If you've spoken to him, you have? Okay.
Excuse me, I haven't spoken to you or Stephen.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
That's the
making
only
a
reason I asked
nomination.
him.
It had-
Oh, and you know what? I think your mic might have. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can go truly either way. Mayor, I didn't hear I think your microphone just went on now, so we can cut cards if that's easier. No, I truly whatever service to the group, I'm good either way.
Well, since I made a nomination of the mayor as vice chair, and what I was hoping to accomplish, and maybe this is not at the discretion of the board, but to maintain Mr. Esquaga as the secretary and treasurer in his current role in financial advisor to this board, and the chair and the vice chair work with Mr. Esquaga in the leadership. That was my intent. What I was shooting for, but I know because we're doing it individually and now we have two nominations.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification. Apparently, legal has advised me that really the role of the secretary treasurer, not really secretary, but they sign documents. They sign the budget augmentations. And I actually was going to nominate Ann Silver because it seemed smart that she's here and it would be convenient for that purpose because the job of secretary treasurer is not,
Yeah.
you know, is not really a job. It's signing a few things. So.
And then I'm going to accept. I will do the vice chair.
Okay.
We need to vote.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're okay with nominations. Stephen's nominated. I have two nominations, so I'll close the floor to nominations, and then I need to take a vote for vice chair. So I'll do roll call. Madam.
Commissioner Lucy?
Mayor Sheevy.
Councilman Bybee?
Stephen Esquaga.
Mr. Esquaga?
I'll put myself down. It's kind of awkward.
Mr. Andy Champson's absent. Ms. Shannon Keel is absent. Mr. Murdoch?
Mayor Sheevy?
Ms. Ann Silver? Ms. Sferrazza?
Yeah, Mayor Sheeby, and I'll tell you why. She's going to be the head of the Conference of Mayors with Arts, Tourism. I forgot that committee. Why wouldn't we want our mayor on our tourism board in a leadership role? Just seems like a no-brainer. Nothing against you, Mr. Esquaga, but just seems like the way to go.
Well, and I would say, Madam Chair, if I may, add a little bit more.
We do have one, Mayor Sheevy.
Oh, didn't you? I thought you voted for yourself already.
No,
Go ahead and just.
It is a tie vote at this point.
Yeah, of course I'm going to vote for myself. You guys know I call it the elephant in the room. I am kind of like, honestly, like I really do. I speak up here. I think that is important. Not saying that Stephen doesn't. I think Stephen is amazing. No, I would like to do it since one of the reasons why I'd like to do it, Anne, is because I didn't fill out my whole term.
And I was just going to say that.
And that was one thing that I really wanted to be able to fill out my last term with that. So I gave up my chair early, and that was the only reason.
And those were exactly my comments. That was the reason for my nomination.
Stephen will do a great job too.
So,
So
so Madam
regardless-
Clerk, we are, Madam Shivi, or Madam Mayor Shivi is 4-3 because we're missing votes from Shannon and from, Mr. Chapman is not here, so, okay. So you are the new vice chair. And just a couple comments that I wanted to make. My intent with supporting Stephen was just looking at a whole new leadership team. He's relatively new to the board, but because he hasn't been on the board that long, hasn't been in a leadership role, that was my thought. It was just starting with a new team. But I welcome both of you. Oh, we've got to vote for, we've got to do the secretary
No, and
treasurer.
I'm happy to make the motion for you, and I'm excited for your chairmanship. So
Okay.
we're all going to be rooting for
Okay,
Reno,
so we've
and
got-
this is going to be great.
So
Right,
we've,
Charles?
so we've got
do
chair, you know what, we've got chair and vice chair.
Taken care
We
of.
do not have secretary treasurer. I'll make a motion to nominate Ann Silver as the secretary treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Stephen Esquaga to
I-
retain his position
Well,
as.
thank
I-
you.
Me too. I'd like to nominate Stephen Esquaga because he's been doing it for such a short period of time.
Okay, do I have
I
any
wanna be
further
sergeant of arms.
nominations? Any further nominations? If not, nominations are closed. I guess we have to do a roll call vote for secretary treasurer. We have Stephen Esquaga or Ann Silver.
Commissioner Lucy,
Stephen Esquaga.
Mayor Shivi, Councilman Bybee,
Well, I nominated Ann, so I'm going to stick with Ann, but I know where this is going, so that's fine.
Mr. Esquaga,
I don't know, maybe I'll go with it. No. I'll put it down for myself. There we go.
and Mr. Chapman is absent, Ms. Shannon Kale is absent. Mr. Murdoch,
Time for me to leave.
Ms. Silver, and Ms. Ferraza.
Okay, so final count, Madam Clerk.
It would be 5 for Mr. Esquaga, 1 for Ms. Silver.
Okay, with that, Mr. Esquaga, you are staying on as our secretary treasurer. I will close that agenda item. We're moving on to item K. J.
Need to correct the record,
Sorry.
Madam Chair. The clerk stated that there was 5-1, and there's more than, there's 7 of us. So, no, that's not correct. It should be 6-1, because there's 7 of us here. So let's the record show. So
Let the record show the final
you
count was
read-
6-1.
Can you retally your votes?
Didn't I say 6-1?
No, you said 5-1.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant 6-1. I do
Okay.
have 6.
Okay.
So we'll
All
do,
right. I just need to
My
make sure the
apologies.
correct, the record
thank
is
you,
correct.
6-1. 6-1. So we will close that agenda item. Ben, on that, did you need a motion first? We already did this. To combine the secretary and treasurer. Was that something we needed to vote on, or because we voted on the position as such, we're
I
good to
think
go? Okay.
Yeah,
Item
I think
J,
it's fine.
board member comments regarding items for future agenda items. Move through this real quick. I would like to put on considering the frequency of our meetings. So I would like to have a discussion on whether that is monthly or we look at 9 or 10 meetings in the upcoming year. And I would like to see that on a future agenda item. I would also like to put an item to discuss our, and I don't know if this would have to come, legal can help me. On the agendas themselves, I'm looking for covering points of our strategic plan as part of our monthly as we address, or is that something I would work with Mr. Harris with, and it's not something that the board needs to bring before them?
And correct me if I'm wrong at all, but I think you just work with legal counsel and Mr. Harris when you put together the agenda.
Okay. Other agenda items for future meetings?
Yeah. For the chair, I would like you to bring back the downtown committee and the, I think we were doing events committee. I think that is going to be important. Also, I think Ms. Ferraza has asked for, and I don't remember it coming to the board, but I think it should be, and again, this is sort of the reason why we need these monthly meetings, is the sponsorships that we've given in the last 3 years from the nonprofits, what those look like. We were supposed to have that on a board meeting, so I'd like to see that. That would be great. And the other thing is, I want to talk about recreation and tourism, a tourism plan for the Truckee River. I want to know how bought in this organization is to actually making that a reality. We've talked about it so many times, but nothing ever happens. And I really believe that that's something that if we're going to focus on it and talk about recreational tourism and this amazing asset, then I'd like to get a commitment from the board and the jurisdictions. It runs right through Sparks. Whenever I bring something up, it's not just Reno, it runs right through your city. I know Shannon is really passionate about it. And Bob, actually, you've been supportive every step of the way. So I'd like to see if we're ever going to do that, if we're just going to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. Any other items for future meetings?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
You know, I want to go back to a comment I made earlier today at the start of the meeting. I really would want to dovetail off of what Mayor Sheevy is saying. I believe that it is important that we bring back the organic visitor origination and how we do that. And through I know that special events play a major part in that, and we've developed that subcommittee. I would like to see that subcommittee meet as soon as possible to start moving forward on how we reallocate the $1 million special events funds. I would like to put on a future agenda. I know Tony Legatetta and Bobby Thompson from the Reno Air Races Association, God, I knew I could get it out, came and presented in front of the Washoe County Commission last week to ask for funding. They've seen some challenges with their special events funding, with their funding, their general budget, because of rise in insurance costs that the airport authority can no longer cover underneath their insurance. So the air racers are going to have to go out and then procure their own rider, which is going to the tune of about $500,000. And then their event space, their event tents, went from a cost of $300,000 to $600,000. So they're going to have an additional almost $800,000 that they're going to have to cover prior to the event in September. And they have made pleas not only to the county commission, but they are making the rounds. And so I'd like to see something be discussed from the special events funding and the committee to address potentially a legacy event that this board has already invested money into, seeing what we can get out of that. And then back to potentially developing what we have already said in our strategic plan, which is community involvement. Whether that's a brewery tour, whether that, and Mr. Harris and I spoke about golf, you know, trying to entice organic visitation through special events and just heritage and regular old, like whether that's brewery tours, distillery tours, golf tours, downtown river rafting or mountain biking, whatever that may be, that we're working on something of that nature. Thank you, Madam Chair.
One more thing I forgot that I had on my notes. And we do this often. People will come in public comment like events. We need to have like an update at the board of what's happening with each of those events. There was a woman that came, I think you might have known her. She might have worked at the El Dorado. She came, she wanted to do a music.
Country Western Festival.
Oh, yeah,
up at San Rafael.
Yeah. So like, what are we doing with that? Is that something that's gonna happen? Also, like, we should be able to talk about the haunted house and Kevin O'Keefe's event, the International Arts Festival. We should be talking about how we're going to help them. What does that include? Is that branding and marketing? I mean, we have billboards. I would imagine at some point, hopefully, you know, Christina will be pulled in. What does that look like? We don't know. And when we don't know, guess what? They're calling me or calling other board members and saying, what's going on? What's going on? What do I, you know, what do I do next? And can you guys help me with this and help me with that? And I don't have the ability to give you the okay. And I think Ann's been in the same position a lot of the times. And we're on the board, so we feel like, okay, we would love to help you, but we don't have the ability. So if you could put that on about how we're going to address those, but maybe like updates so that we can discuss these events would really help the board. And then it's so much easier to say, well, we can discuss that at the board. But we, you know, it's, you know this, I can't make that decision.
For clarification, even with the air races, because I think that's part of, we've gone round and round. Shouldn't we have them come through the special events committee this new committee, and then we'll vet it, and then make recommendations to the board. Like even the haunted, all that, I thought that was how we're trying to streamline the process, so we don't have to go through this and then, I'm a little scared. I mean, then we can make the do this vetting and then make the recommendation to like the air races, for example. We probably need some information. Who are they bringing in this year? All that stuff. And to go back to what you said, if we could just, I think that's why the committee was put into place, to vet this. And so we're starting to use that process to come back. That's the only thing I'm.
And included in that, I know you have to include this, I would think, if you don't, but let's talk about time, because I know we're like, oh, you have to apply for all this in the time, but look at that, today we're seeing this haunted house come in, you don't know when those times are gonna be, so I just wanna put that on
Well,
there.
and to that point too, with that special events committee and with the $1 million increase that we have, we also talked about, I think we all agreed that the criteria that we have that we've been using is outdated and needs to be relooked at, because we've got Barracuda that we didn't support because they're not in Washoe County. And part of the criteria that's an older, and I know Charles' staff, the special event committee that's been doing it, has started the work, but that committee needs to revamp and relook at what the criteria are, so that with double the amount of money, but really is it up to date with what, and meets our best needs, really is what we're looking for.
Madam Chair, if I can make a quick comment.
Mr. Harris.
So Jessica, to your point, I think part of that is getting to the subcommittee to be able to sort out where we are. We didn't increase by $1 million. It's now $1 million total. Also to Kevin O'Keefe, the opportunity funds from last fiscal year, or the current one, is going to support his effort. So we didn't wait until this subcommittee did. We had some resources and we applied it to that. But this subcommittee has to meet to be able to set up the parameters. I will say that the sales team has done a lot of work around setting a uniform pricing for local events that has not been in place before, because it has been all over the map. ASM had that flexibility to do that, and what we're working hard to is, one, streamlining prices, which hasn't been there, two, discounting the prices for locals based upon that time, and we can talk and present that to the subcommittee when we look at the special events.
Okay, thank you.
Charles, we had talked
Okay,
about that.
Mr. Murdoch, real quick.
Who's on the special event committee?
He sent it out.
I didn't see it.
Uh,
I'm sorry, I'm lame.
Go ahead.
So there was the chair,
Let me know.
Chair Lucy put out the 4 names that he was requesting to be on the committee, plus 3 names from the community that would be added to that committee, along with the internal staff that is reviewing. And so the chair will take it from there.
He also added Mr. Lucy, correct me if I'm wrong, the board members you named to that committee were yourself, me, Ms. Ferraza, and Stephen Esquaga, correct? And then the community members are listed but need to be vetted or contacted.
Just one quick question on that. Do we need them to qualify for a quorum? I guess the majority of the board, I'm just saying, like, President, it might be hard. I didn't think about it. Okay, okay.
I made sure that it didn't infringe on any of the other committees.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
The current configuration does not impact the executive, legislative, or finance.
Actually, it does, Mr. Lucy, because I serve on 3, and I should not be on 3 committees. So I'll need to relook at.
But you're not, doesn't make a quorum.
Right. Mine is more, our goal was not to have our board members on all the subcommittees, or on 3, I thought. Is that a policy or no rule on that? Okay.
The only reason we didn't put people on, so we didn't create a quorum
Right.
of the existing board for another sub.
For another board, okay.
So we had to make sure that there was a balance.
Of who was on what? Okay.
So it doesn't mean you can be on all the committees.
Okay.
You just don't have to. You can't be a quorum of the finance committee and quorum. You can't be a quorum of the finance committee and a quorum of the executive legislative committee, because with the same membership, so we had to break the membership up. Do you see what I'm saying? That
Right.
you and me and Hillary couldn't be on all three committees because we would be a quorum of all three committees. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, and I think I'll look at those members again and have legal look at it to make sure we haven't violated that because several of us are on more than one.
And
Okay.
if I could weigh in real quick, I heard the question and then there's a lot of cutting in and out, and I'm not sure what the discussion was. So that special events committee that the board created has 7 seats on it. So it's got 4 board members and 3 community members. So with a board of 7, you'd need 4 for a quorum. So as long as we've got the RSCVA board members appointed, we can start having those meetings and achieve a quorum. And then as the community members, if they agree to be on the committee, then we can pull them on board.
Ben, what the chairwoman Bybee was she was trying to reference was that was there an issue of the 4 members from the that were appointed to the special events committee creating a quorum issue, and you and I looked through all of the 4 or the 3 committees currently, which is the executive, legislative, the finance, and now the special events, which is an edification of the marketing committee, so that the membership didn't create a quorum of another committee. And so she was worried that the current appointments might have created a quorum of another committee, but you and I looked through that and verified that that does not happen. So can you answer that and say yes?
I see a nodding head.
There you go. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Lucy. Okay, moving on. We're almost done here. Okay, comments from the floor by the public. Madam Clerk?
None at this time, thank you.
Okay, I don't see anyone jumping up, so it looks like we're good. So we are at L, adjournment. Final most favorite motion to adjourn. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Murdoch, second. I need a second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're out of here.
Aye.
Thanks.